Hello and welcome to Drunk Girls Who Read.
I thought you wanted to stay at wine first. I'm so sorry, I wasn't ready.
I can multitask.
Okay, I haven't... Have you got a sentence ready?
Oh. Hello and welcome to Drunk Girls Who Read, a podcast where two really organised girls have actually been podcasting for almost a decade now, and it really shows.
Who are you?
I'm Charlie.
And I'm Hannah, and we're two 30-somethings doing something I can't remember because I only have our previous podcast intro memorised. I don't know, reading
was
books.
convinced that not drawing attention to it would
Reading-
mean that we did this off by heart for the first time.
I genuinely have no idea what it is. Like, I could not tell you.
It's combining hopefully intelligent literary criticism with drunken chaos.
And we're two 30-somethings combining hopefully intelligent literary criticism with drunken chaos.
In today's episode, we're doing something a little bit different. We're doing our end of the year reading wrapped. So yeah,
Grab
a
a drink,
grab some mulled wine.
Grab some mulled wine, crack open your book, and join us for... I don't remember this line either. Join us for some fun. I don't know our intro off by heart yet.
We've had half a beer each.
Oh my god, brilliant. That's the best intro.
That's the best we've done it, honestly.
I also thought if I didn't look, I'd be able to do it. And I was like, nothing is coming to me.
I thought we were having like an unspoken moment that we were just going to do it and it was going to be the first time we nailed it off by heart and it was going to be beautiful. Hello, Hannah. How are you?
Felt very formal. I'm good.
Well, it's the end of your year appraisal.
Oh, good lord. I cry in those mostly.
Yeah.
The last time I had one of those, one day before it happened, I got made redundant.
Slay. Yeah.
The appraisal was meant to be at 10 o'clock on a thurday, and at 4 p.m. on a Wednesday, I got called into a meeting and made redundant, which they said had nothing to do with the end of year appraisal when I was asking for a promotion and a raise to do with it. And I was like, really? Because the timing is very suspicious.
It's the expectations versus reality.
Truly. I was just there like, okay, not how I expected my year to go, but cheers, everyone. I'm good. It's a Friday. It's December. I'm feeling festive. I listened to a Christmas playlist on the way here. Christmas Lights by Coldplay came on as I was going up the high street.
Only good Coldplay song.
Yeah, it's a fantastic Coldplay song. When I say I'm feeling festive, am I feeling that internal cute warmth? No, because capturing that as an adult is almost impossible. But I'm doing the things that make me feel festive.
I never feel it anymore, but this year I feel so festive. My body hasn't even clocked that it's the end of the year.
Yeah.
I keep being like, what month is it? And I genuinely can't even, like, that is how unfestive I feel.
Yeah.
That, like, I'm normally at least aware that it's coming up.
No, I know. Same.
And I keep thinking about, I'm really excited for my Christmas present. And I keep thinking about, I can't wait to get it. And then I'm like, it's going to be ages. And then I'm like, no, it's a few weeks.
How are you generally?
I'm good. I've gone psychic. And last time you didn't believe me.
No.
Last time you were full of doubt.
I was.
And now, egg on your face.
I've never heard someone say that out loud. I've been proven wrong. So Charlie texted me. Actually, what annoyed me is she didn't text me. She Instagram DM'd me. And I really hate when conversations with people go outside of the normal platform you speak on, because I'm already bad at texting back. Do not platform split it. I will not keep track.
There were years, like at least the first 2 years of mine and Neil's friendship, where we never texted. We would talk on every random social media platform, but I don't think I ever texted the man. And then we kind of realized this one day and like made a joke about it. So the next time I went to message him, I sent him a LinkedIn DM.
That's good. I like that. But yeah, you Instagram DM'd me saying, in reply to a story I'd posted about a book I'd read, which I won't talk about yet because that would be a spoiler. Where's the chair that's normally in here?
I put it in the hallway.
Oh, I didn't notice you do that.
I did this in front of you.
I just didn't see.
Okay, so I'm psychic and you're whatever the complete opposite is. You see something happening, you're still not aware.
My brain has been removed from my head. And yeah, you were like, I've been thinking for weeks but haven't bothered to mention it to you. We should do a reading wrapped episode as a special for Drunk Girls Who Read. And I was like, I love that idea. That's brilliant. We started planning it. Midway through the planning, I text Charlie in all capitals, Spotify Wrapped has dropped. 45 minutes after she sent me the reading wrap text, Spotify drops Wrapped.
Because I'm psychic.
I mean, I will say Spotify Wrapped release the same time of year every single year and had been saying it's coming tomorrow the day before.
But that doesn't mean I'm not psychic. I also genuinely had not seen it saying it was coming.
Fair enough.
But yeah, I had genuinely been doing this thing, and this sounds like I'm making it up for a joke. I had this idea about 2 weeks ago to do this reading wrapped thing, and I genuinely just assumed you were on the same page. I don't know what I was thinking. I think I was thinking you will have had the same idea, or I don't know. I expected there to just be some kind of link between our hive mind.
Sure, the symbiotic relationship
where
between our brains.
I just thought we both knew this was a thing that we were doing, despite the fact at no point had I communicated this. I like to think this is how men communicate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what you're here for. You're here for our reading wrapped. Much like Spotify wrapped, but with books, and it's just about us two. It's got nothing to do with you. Is this very egotistical? Yes, but you're going to like it. It's fun.
It's egotistical, but at the same time, I've fallen off with it. I've not done it in like 6 months, but I used to put book reviews on my Instagram stories. And I thought, I mean, I was happily doing it as like a self-indulgent thing. And then I joked one day about it being really self-indulgent and no one caring. And I got so many replies of people, and not even like podcast listeners, because it was like my personal Instagram, but people I know in real life that are like, no, I use this as like to like pick what I'm reading.
Yeah, I could tell I do, because I posted my first 5-star read of the year on it this week, which is what caused you to DM me. And I had, this isn't an exaggeration, 15 people reply like, I've been waiting for you to get 5-star. This is straight to the top of my reading list. I was like, oh, I'm like an influencer. Thank you.
Bookfluencer.
So that's what you're here for.
You are a bookfluencer. Hannah's been posting bookish TikToks. Hannah's,
yeah.
what is your TikTok URL?
Hannah__twig. It's the same as my Instagram.
Yeah.
Yes, I post bookish little snippets on there if you wanna find that.
You should.
Can I drink this now? I'm really excited to try it.
Yes.
What are we drinking today?
We are drinking white mulled wine.
Never had this.
You know, you've got to whitewash mulled wine.
Absolutely. This is making me realise that when wine is heated up, I'm not sure I can really tell the difference between the colours.
You just don't see colour.
I just don't. It's really nice.
Yeah.
But I think if you had put it in like a coffee cup and given it to me, I would have just gone, oh, that's like a really light red.
Yeah.
I can tell it's
I
like
think
a depthy,
also
heavy
the
red.
fact that it's mulled, so the spices are the same, I think that contributes to it. Like, because the overwhelming flavour is normally the spices in the mulled wine.
Or the shot of extra alcohol I put in, because that's traditionally how you meant to make mulled wine.
I did not do that, sorry.
How dare you?
Soz.
No, it's really good. I like it.
Yeah, it's
Thank
good,
you.
isn't it? Yeah. That's a little cheeky little M&S number. M&S, sponsor us.
Oh, please. Right, should we explain how this is going to work?
We
Should
can
we
try.
lay out
We
ya?
can try.
Let's go.
So, hive mind. We are going to start off talking a bit about our yearly overview. So just like a summary of how our reading year was, some fun stats. We've made graphs. I went a bit insane. I learned how to do, what are they called?
Pivot tables.
Pivot tables.
I've never done them.
I was doing pivot tables. I was doing, I think they're called power queries. I was doing all kinds of data science wizardry to make some very basic graphs.
Are we going to put them up on screen?
Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
There's going to be graphs on screen, guys. Aren't you glad that you watched this? Yes, so first off is going to be an overview, some of our fun data. Section 2 is going to be going over our best and worst, so you'll get some more in-depth reviews of what we've read and what we've liked and haven't liked. We then have a bit of a quickfire section where we're going to be talking about like random things like our longest book, our top reading month, favorite non-fiction, things like that. And then we're going to go into our 2026 reading intentions, where we're going to be talking about what is the top of our TBR, as well as any kind of resolutions that we've made. I've written none down. I shall think of some.
Great. I love this.
Cute.
So let's start off with the yearly summary. A precursor. We're recording this at the beginning of December, much like Spotify Wrapped is released at the beginning of December and normally does not include December data. However, I was not happy with only including 11 months of data because I normally get quite a lot of reading done when I'm at home over Christmas. So this includes the data for December 2024. So
it's 12 months.
It's 12 months, including last December. I hate when people don't make that clear in their end of year reading wrap up, so I wanted to get that knowledge out there.
Yeah. So before we jump into the data, how was your year reading?
It was the most books I have ever read in a year in my life that
Wow.
I can remember. I presume that doesn't count picture books in my cognizant life post like 15. This is the most books I've ever read in a year.
Wow, impressive.
And I'd say overall it was a really good year. I would say the main drawback of this year was until like 3 days ago I did not find a 5-star book, and I was getting real panicky about it. I was like, there's just none this year, that's it, I'm done. How was your year overall?
Shit.
Oh.
And I'm aware I'm not selling you guys on continuing this episode when I'm
switch
about
off.
to be like, everything I've read is awful. No, there has been some really good highlights and some good discoveries, but overall, I don't know, I've picked books terribly or something. I have read a lot of crap. I've also been, I wouldn't say like properly slumped. Like, I don't think there's been like a real section of a few weeks where I haven't been reading, which is what I would call a slump. But I definitely have slowed down a lot versus last year. I think I read, I'm going to start getting into the data now. I think I read about 66 books last year. This year I read 41.
This is so cute because I read 42, and that's...
She just had to one-up me, guys.
No, but it's so cute that we're that close together. That's really nice.
Okay, but also, it might get even cuter because I think there is technically one on here that I think I haven't counted, and I didn't fix it because I realised after I'd done all of the data, and also it was a reread, so it wasn't that important. So we might literally be...
Both on 42.
Which is adorable.
But yeah, I've never broken the 40 barrier, so this is an exciting year.
I don't know what was in the water last year, and I'm not one of those people. I really don't believe in like setting yourself like reading goals. Like, I read for fun. I don't want to make it a stressful thing. I don't want to feel like, oh no, I'm behind this month, like I need to. I don't want to make reading into a stressful thing. And for the most part, I don't care that I read significantly less than last year. When I logically think about it, I really don't care. I'm really happy with the amount that I've read this year. But there's that tiny little niggling voice in my brain that's like, me, you read so much less. And I'm like, shut up, little
goblin.
I'm like,
Is it Todd?
I'm
like,
holding a
sitting on
pillow over the little like goblin's head.
I just asked if it's Todd, and
It's
you're
not.
like held a pillow over
I
their
wouldn't
head.
smother Todd. I would only smother him in love. But yeah, there's that tiny little voice that I'm trying to...
Yeah.
Because I don't believe in overconsumption of books, and I don't believe in turning what should be a fun hobby into some kind of pissing contest.
I always set a reading goal, but it's got naught to do with anyone else. It's just...
But even that
For
I find
me.
stressful. And this is, I judge no one who does it, to be clear, but I know myself. If I set a reading goal, I'm getting stressed out.
Valid.
And then because I'm getting stressed out, I'm not reading.
So it's a good thing that we're making this episode where we deeply analyze how much we read the previous year. Do you know how many pages and or minutes you read? Because obviously books are not all made the same length. So I read 15,122 pages.
Repeat that, I wasn't paying attention.
I read 15,122 pages.
That's good. I read, and I'm going to preface this data, where I worked out, because I read a lot of both books and audiobooks. Audiobooks is, and I have the actual stats later on, my like by far the biggest way that I read. But I worked out my pages for everything because I wanted like an overall like number, and it made then splitting up some of the other data easier.
Yeah.
That I needed to have pages for everything.
That makes sense.
But then I've also broken that out into hours read as well.
Okay.
So overall, everything I've read was 19,763 pages.
So you did beat me. Even if you don't count that book, you beat me.
It's not a competition, but
Yeah.
but also that includes audiobooks. So naturally I would beat you because I can read in the shower. If you do that, you're ruining some books.
What do you mean? I'm working on inventing waterproof books.
I mean, you could definitely get a waterproof case for the Kindle. Actually, no, because you'd have to touch the screen.
Yeah. Okay, 19,000 pages. It's quite significantly higher.
Yeah. So my stats. So 71% were audiobooks, 19 were ebooks, and 10% were physical books.
Nice.
Gotta love my hatred of a physical book.
Mine were 100% physical books.
Wow, not even a single ebook.
No, not one.
Wow.
Not one. I don't have like Kindle or Audible. I do have an e-reader for if I get sent, and I'll go into this a bit, like PDFs of books that aren't released yet, but didn't happen to read any of those on them. And I have Libby and BorrowBox from the library. And the year before last, I did a few non-fictions on audiobooks and really enjoyed it. So when we get to my intentions, I'll mention that, because I did no audiobooks this year, which I find a shame.
Well, I
Oh God.
listened to 560 hours worth of audiobooks, which, let me quickly do some maths.
Please do some maths.
That's 23 days.
How many hours is it a day on average? I'm guessing 1.8
I've already forgotten what number I said. 560
divided by 365.
Yeah, 1.5.
I'm so clever. Look at
Yeah.
me. I'm a maths genius.
Yeah. But
That
I will
doesn't
say
feel like that much.
it doesn't feel like that much. And I will say, I think it's probably not like, obviously I can't be like on average higher, but I would say on a day when I listen to audiobooks, I would say it's higher than that. I think what will be happening is there are days when I don't listen to any.
Yeah.
Because I would say it's probably like two to three on a day when I do, but then there'll be some days when I don't, or it's literally 5 minutes.
Do you ever listen on increased speed?
No, never.
Oh, okay, interesting.
I am too cheap for that. I don't understand people that do that. Audiobooks, like, I mean, they're not like so expensive as in like they're probably comparable or cheaper to books.
Yeah.
But the way I think about it is like I won't buy an audiobook if it's like below 10 hours. Even 10 hours is pushing it. Like, I kind of, in my brain, I have 13 as like a cutoff. Like, if a book is below 13 and I buy it, it has to be like, I really, really want to read it. And I know that I can't physically read it, because I think about it as they all cost the same amount of money. So I should buy as long as possible, because then that is a better value for money per hour, which is insane. I know that is a ridiculous way to think about reading.
It is.
But that's genuinely how I think about it. So why on earth would I put it in 2 times speed? I am costing myself money. I also, like I said, I don't believe in this like thing about like competitive reading and trying to read the most amount. Like, I'm into slow hobbies. Like, I like knitting and listening to an audiobook and wrapping myself up in the world and really enjoying it. I don't want to just get through a book as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
For the sake of it. And I know some people like, it's too slow, it irritates me, and I think that's very valid, and that's absolutely fine. I get why some people do it, because they like find it irritating. That's not for me. Like, I would rather have it at the speed that it feels. I hate when like the phrasing of the sentence feels off because it's sped up, so like the emphasis feels all wrong. I don't enjoy it as much as an experience. And I also think it's like a slippery slope. Like, you know how much like how like the more you salt your food, the less you can taste it, so you need more. I feel like it's the same with audiobook speed. The more you speed it up, the more you then feel it's too slow, so you speed it up even more. Like, people get to the point where they're doing like so much more every year, and to the point it is so fast that I'm like, that ends up as a really, when you listen to 560 hours a year, that ends up a really expensive hobby, because you're getting through books that quickly, which don't get me wrong, that's how you want. I believe in spending money on your hobbies, absolutely. So if that is how you want to spend your money, but for me, I'm a cheap motherfucker.
Also, if you're in the UK, big up massively BorrowBox and Libby. You link them to your library card, which obviously you can get for free. And I only found this out in 2024. You can then download audiobooks for free. Obviously, they're timed, so 14 days, the same as getting out a book. And also, they limit them the same amount as a book. So a library might only have 1 copy, or it might have like 3 copies. So if people have reserved it, you don't get it. But I was not aware that libraries could do this. And it's such a fantastic system. Like, I just think that's the best.
Yes, people should do that.
Right, let's go into genres. This was really interesting, and we actually ended up having, so both of us ended up manually working out our genres, because we both use Storygraph, which, by the way, people have been asking. We'll link them in the description. Multiple people have asked for our Storygraph links, but I think one of the problems with Storygraph is the genre tagging is wrong. Just, I wanted to do it manually, so we re-tagged and everything manually.
So you can, if you get a pro membership to Storygraph, you can do custom tagging. So I think you could create your own tags for genre and do it that way to get the grasp. But we knew that because of this episode, we wanted a level of detail beyond what any normal consumer would want.
Yeah.
And we also wanted it for a different time period, like we said, the 12 months. So that's why we've done this. However, if you are an average reader and you want data on your reading and you want to support an alternative to Goodreads that isn't Amazon owned, download Storygraph. It's amazing. We both love it.
It's a fantastic app. So, annoyingly, my top genre was contemporary. Now, I ended up doing some research because I was at first like, contemporary is not a genre. Sources on the internet told me that it was, and it isn't just books set in a contemporary time period. It is books that analyze the time we live in now because they are set in a contemporary time period. That to me makes more sense. So my highest genre was contemporary, with 21 of the 42 books I read being contemporary. Next up, another genre I hate the name of, literary. 14 literary books.
Hannah knows my feelings on these. Like, it just annoys me as like, what does that mean?
Yeah, no, literary is contemporary. I kind of understand. It is a bit of a catch-all, but I
also
understand
it ends up getting treated as a catch-all of just anything that's like modern.
Well, and yeah, my biggest problem with literary is that is such a blurred line, because the main reason I recounted everything is because there were books being called literary which I would not consider literary, but because what it means is essentially like being wordy and internal, and rather than plot focus, it's about like character focus.
It means it's wanky.
Yeah, it means it's wanky. But that is so subjective. So in my personal opinion, 14 of the books I I'm wedded to my books. I didn't actually generate percentages for this, so that was dumb. Oh my God, something just disappeared. I moved something. 14 of the books I read were contemporary. 10 of the books I read were historical. Now, I know I like historical fiction, but that being the third highest was actually a bit of a shock to me. Then a big drop. 5 of the books I read. Oh my God.
Why have you suddenly turned into Jonathan Ross?
I don't know. 5 of the books I read were romance. 4 were crime and thriller. 3 were politics, but that's a non-fiction category. 3 were mystery. 3 were horror, which I can dive into in a bit later. 2 dystopia, 2 fantasy, 1 memoir, and 1 sci-fi.
Lovely.
Yeah.
To absolutely no one's surprise, my top genre was fantasy.
Stop it.
Crazy. With 12 fantasy books. My second, again, surprised nobody, was romance with 10 books. Mm-hmm. Then my next 2, they're both surprising to me and they're not, because I had made a conscientious effort to read more of these. So I did thriller/horror, which came in at 9, and then mystery/crime, which came in at 4.
I love that I put thriller and crime together and you put thriller horror together, therefore rendering this comparison absolutely useless.
Woo!
Maybe we should have internally discussed that.
Maybe we should have.
Oh well.
But yeah, we both believe in like reading across genres and even trying genres, even if they're not really your thing. And probably about like a year and a half ago, I was like, I need to, like, I don't really read crime or anything, and I don't read a lot of thriller or horror, despite the fact that I love thriller films. So I have made a conscientious effort. I still need to do more like crime. I'm really fighting an internalized stigma I have about it, but because I kind of paired mystery and crime, I did technically get 4. Then I had 4 literary books. I had 3 historical, 2 comedy, 2 sci-fi/dystopia.
Oh fuck, we separated that out as well.
2 contemporary and 1 classic.
I don't believe you only had 2 contemporary, because I know you read all the Bridget Joneses, which is more than 2.
I put those under romance.
I was using multiple. We categorized this so different.
I did do multiple for some, but for that, I think I did romance. I might have done. Did I do comedy? No, I just did. Yeah, I just did romance. It could be comedy and it could be contemporary as well. I don't know why I didn't put them.
It's the kind of thing where genre, like, and everyone's going to come to a different conclusion on it. So it's more about like the overall stats, which you created some very interesting graphs.
I did.
Which showed our average rating for each of our genres we read. So what was your top rated genre?
What do you think it was?
Fantasy. No, I think your fantasy came out low because you read fantasy books you didn't like. Therefore, I actually think it could have been thriller horror because you really enjoyed like the Joe Hill books you read this year.
It was mystery/crime, which, as I was just saying, I have such an internalized stigma against. And we will go into more of a breakdown of what I read this year later on. I am actually struggling to think. I can think of how many overall did I have again? It
Do
was
you want to
4.
know something cute though? My top genre was mystery.
Adorable. We're just mysterious gals. I'm trying to think because it was 2 Agatha Christie's. What else did I read that would be categorized as crime?
Although I have got to say, my lowest category was crime and thriller. So
Confusing. We're not very good data analysts here.
Don't give us a job in the data analyst industry.
No. But yeah, I can't think of the other 2. I guess I'll come to them later. I'm assuming I'll remember.
Yeah.
But I have a real stigma against crime. And I think it's based in 2 things. One, it's the fucking covers when you go into the bookshop. And it's all like, it just feels very masculine, which I really hate. It's really like gritty and blood splatters, and I hate it. And I think the second reason is that I have this weird link to it in my brain between that and like true crime podcasts, which is something to massively generalize. Like, I'm really against them as like, I feel like I'm being a massive hater. I'll get more positive I feel like I'm listing the things that I really don't like, but I really don't like true crime podcasts as a thing that exists. And I think that I have a weird association in my brain where I kind of almost view crime as like the same thing of like capitalizing on tragedy, even though it's not, because they're fucking fictional. So it's a different thing. And I do know that I have that, you know, when you got an irrational link in your brain that's causing like a stigma. So yeah, I did start out with things like Christie, which are very much like a dive into like cozy crime.
Yeah.
So I do want to read more going into the next year to challenge my own preconceptions about that.
A fun story to throw in there. I was at an event recently where Ian Rankin was speaking, and he said something where I was like, sorry, what? But I kind of loved it. He was like, to me, and I know this makes no sense, but crime is for the working class and thriller is for the middle upper classes.
Ooh.
But he didn't mean it from a perspective of as in for the readers. He meant from a writerly perspective. He very much identifies as like a working class person that like learned to write, and he sees it as like crime is often looked down on for being a bad genre. So they invented more thrillers to be like, oh, you can read this and not feel like that's changed a lot with then cozy crime. But he was like, that's what it was like when I first started writing crime 20 years ago. And I kind of loved that as a take. I found it very fascinating because he is like one of the biggest crime writers ever.
So yeah, I'm glad that that's the angle he was coming at it from, because when you first said that, I assumed that essentially his opinion was the one he was critiquing.
No.
But yeah, I get what you mean about the way that it's marketed.
Yeah,
almost.
he meant it from a marketing perspective, because I was like, oh my God, I'd never thought about it like that. I kind of love that.
Yeah. My number 2 then was sci-fi / dystopia, then literary.
You just slagged it off.
Then thriller / horror, then contemporary, then comedy, then romance, then fantasy.
Who are you?
I'm having a crisis, mate. Do I even like fantasy?
I don't think that you do.
Like, I genuinely am. I'm having an identity crisis. Then it was historical. Then it was horror, and then it was classics.
Ouch! Poor classics.
I read one and I DNF'd it. We'll get into that later.
So, in order of average rating, mine go mystery, history, politics, sci-fi, historical, literary, fantasy, dystopia, horror, contemporary, memoir, romance, crime and thriller. And also, I realise I should have said this before the genres section. Out of the 42 books I read this year, 38 were fiction and 4 were non-fiction.
Mine were 100% fiction, despite the fact that I have a yearly goal to read 1 non-fiction. In my defence, I read 2 last year.
Well, then it evens out.
I've decided it evens out. I was really hoping when you suggested about including last December that my non-fiction was somehow one of them would have been in December. It wasn't. Oh. I was not that lucky.
We then also did a bit of analysis of subgenre, but to be honest, this just confused me slightly. So I might not talk about it.
I'm going to talk about mine very briefly, only because I specifically cut into my fantasy reading. You know, fantasy books, the ones that I don't like.
Sure, yeah. Your least favourite genre.
Yeah, so I read 9 high fantasy books, 3 romantasy books, and 2 low fantasy books.
Okay, that's a fun subgenre.
See?
I like that.
I thought that was a nice little tidbit.
Yeah.
So yeah, very much about reading the high fantasy this year, apparently.
What was your average rating overall?
Overall?
Yeah.
It was 3.10.
That's not a decimal point. Do you mean 3.1?
3.1. Sorry. I read it the way that it's there because I'm dyslexic. I just read it.
3.10, i.e. 4.
Yeah, I was just being difficult. No, 3.1.
It's low.
Yeah. I had, like I said, I had a fucking terrible
You had a
year
hate
because I
year.
kept reading fantasy that I hate, apparently.
Mine was 3.5, which splits down into 1 2-star book, 10 3-star books, 8 3.5-star books, 14 4-star books. I cannot leave the middle rating section. 7 4.5 books, 1 5-star book.
I'm not gonna read my breakdown because there's like there was somewhere and I don't normally do this, but I did like the 7.5 or
You're
stuff.
the worst.
And I don't normally do it, and I did it twice this year where I did like not a round number, but it means that I have so many numbers it would be really boring to go through them all.
Fair enough. I had 0 rereads this year.
Oh. I had
Oh, what was that noise?
what else was I supposed
Oh, did you now? That's what it sounded like.
No. I had 3, which is actually quite low for me. I'm a big reread. I used to audiobook Harry Potter whenever I was like sad, and now I don't do that anymore because it has bad associations now. So I'm a big rereader because when I find a book that I love then reading the audiobook because then it's like comforting and you can put it on to sleep and it doesn't matter, you fall asleep because you've read it before.
Yeah.
And I also, if am having like a particularly bad reading like run of books where I read a bunch of books that I don't like, I will typically then reread something that I do like just to remind myself that I do like reading.
To like kickstart everything again. That makes sense.
Exactly. So I am a big rereader, but I only apparently reread 3 this year, though I do think it was 4. I think I forgot to include one.
I am a reread lover. I haven't done it as anywhere near as much since COVID because I reread a lot during COVID, and then since then I've been very much like, oh my god, there's so many books I want to read. But 0 is very rare for me. I don't think I've ever had 0 before.
Yeah.
Although technically we can both add one more to our count, and it's a reread.
Hunger
Technically,
Games.
we reread the Hunger Games.
Yeah, we did.
But I don't log our podcast books
No.
like that in.
Because it would just like bring down your like average days to read.
Oh no, my average days to read is fucking ruined because of the way I read non-fiction.
Yeah.
I screwed mine over so much. Technically, it's counted in this graph because I finished it last December and you now have it. It's my book called The Beginner's Guide to the Palestine-Israeli Conflict, which like that title, at least it's not like the Palestine-Israeli conflict for dummies.
Yeah.
But it's still a title where you're like, bit embarrassing to say. I read that over 15 months and my god, did that ruin my average reading time.
And I'm probably going in 6 months with it. It is really good, but yeah, it's not something you
race through the detailed discussion of almost every single event that's happened in the last 100 years twice, because the way that book is structured is you get a Palestinian historian and an Israeli historian going over the same time period in history. So you then just do it all again halfway through the book.
Yeah. Free Palestine, by the way, guys, obviously.
Yeah. If you read that book, side you come down on is pro-Palestine.
I mean, it was always
It's up to you.
anyway,
It's up to
know.
you. You know, it's your decision. You make at the end, but I know where our decision is. Anyway, you made us track our TBR versus not reading TBR, which I found really interesting because, and I was trying to work out why our answers might be so different from this. I think because I read physical books, it's very unlikely I'll read something not on a TBR because either my TBR splits in half. I have my TBR. By the way, there are 136 books on it. Mm-hmm. There's the physical TBR, which I own, i.e. I've picked them up from charity shops or when I'm book shopping and they're ready, sitting on the shelf, waiting for me to read. Or there's books I'm hunting for in the charity shops. That's where I buy most of my books because I hate actually paying authors. That's a joke. I love supporting charities. But what that means is if I'm reading physically, it's very rare something would not be on a TBR because what it would mean would be I'd buy a book that day and start reading it that day. Whereas I think if you're reading probably, I imagine, on audiobooks and ebooks, you have a lot more like, oh, that looks good, I'll read that.
Yeah, 100%. So my favourite hobby in life, it's not reading, it's not doing the podcast, it's not knitting, it's not crochet, it's none of that. It's adding books to my TBR and then never reading them. And then every time I sit down and I'm like, oh, what should I read next? I look through my TBR and I go, no.
No.
And then I read something really random.
Great.
and then normally it's bad.
Great.
And I refuse to change my ways. No, I tried to change my ways this year. I was trying to be really intentional about actually reading from my TBR. And I would class something as reading from my TBR. I feel like it's got to be on there for like a few weeks.
Sure. Yeah.
It doesn't count if I literally add it to my Storycraft TBR and then immediately start it. That's on TBR.
No.
So I feel like there is an arbitrary length of time I have in my head that it has to be on my TBR to count. But yeah, I put a conscientious effort in this year. So 66% of what I read was in fact from my TBR.
That really surprised me because at this beginning of this year, you were like, I've ignored my TBR for 4 months. So it really surprised me it manages to get to 66%.
I clawed it back, I did. I was really good.
I can read. Okay. There's extra data in mine.
Oh, I do then have my average rating that I can go into.
Oh, that's fun.
So this is hilarious. My average rating for books from my TBR was 2.9. My average rating for books not on my TBR was 3.5. Vindication, I should never read anything on my TBR.
2.9?
Yeah?
Jesus Christ. Mine did not come up with that stat. I don't know why. Right.
Oh, because sorry.
No, you're fine. So, sorry, I'm just adding two things together. Right. Books that were read from a TBR, I'll explain what I mean by that in a minute, was 83% of the books I read were from a TBR and 17% were not from a TBR. However, there's extra data in mine because one of my jobs is running a book club called Happy Place Book Club, which is Fern Cotton's Happy Place Book Club. It's like I'm freelance and it's about a quarter of everything, all the work that I do. And a significant portion of my year is taken up reading books that we might then feature for Happy Place Book Club. So 21% were, and that isn't how many books I read for Happy Place Book Club, 21% of my, no, how do I phrase this? 21% were TBR, but specifically the Happy Place Book Club TBR. However, overall for the year, 38% of the reading I did was for Happy Place Book Club.
I don't know how you do it.
But you say that, the two books that you're sitting over there that you're about to spotlight both come from the Happy Place Book Club TBR.
It's not about quality at all. Like, and I have great respect for the fact you're able to do it. This would drive me insane. I hate being told what to do. And I know it's not being told what to do, but I hate having to do things. It's like what I was saying about not wanting to do a reading goal because then it will stress me out. The moment I have to do something, I lose any kind of passion or interest.
Sure.
Like, you know, whenever anyone says like, oh, monetize your hobby, I'm like, no, then I will hate it. Like, I'm not going to sell my knitting. It will become a stressful thing.
Which is why you're so glad we monetize this podcast.
Yeah. But I think the idea of having to read, and I am so fussy with what I read, particularly when it comes to genre, that I just, I've got great respect for it because I don't know how you do it because this would actually drive me insane.
I'll tell you a few ways I do it. One, I have shoved that book club towards my own reading tastes. And two, there is the huge advantage that I am getting books that are, and you'll find out about this when I go through some of the books, getting books that publishers are saying these are really good 6 months before they go to market. So it's very exciting as well. Like I'm hearing about books first. I'm the one who gets to read it first. So that element of excitement does often outweigh the, oh, this is kind of work reading. I also want to put it on the record now. I just said I run and manage the book club. I do. It is a celebrities book club, as I just said. It's Fern Cotton's book club. She gets the final decision. What I am doing is speaking to all the publishers about what's coming up, what they're excited about, what authors might be in the country when. There's a lot that goes into it. I read the ones that sound like the right fit. I shortlist them and then Fern picks from the shortlist. That is the way that the vast majority of celebrity or named book clubs are run. I see a lot of discussion online about like, oh, the celebrities don't read their books or like it's not done by them. I can't speak to other people. I don't know if Dua Lipa's reading her books. I don't know if Reese Witherspoon's reading her books, but like we're very public about the fact that like I'm doing the shortlisting and Fern picks from the shortlist.
Yeah. I bet there's at least one person that listens to this or Goblet of Wine podcast and also reads from the Fern Cotton Happy Place and does not realise that they've been reading books, not that you've picked, but that you have had a significant hand in picking.
I have thought this before. I'm like, I wonder if people know that's also me, and I'm just here like, read this. Like, you will notice it though once it happens, because half my stories are about it. Books I talk about on this podcast now, and then it feeds into So Thrilled for You was one of the pits. So it's just, there's a whole world going on here. But 38% is higher than I thought. I would have thought it was about 20% of my reading. 38% is Happy Place Book Club. So
that's a lot of percent.
Now I made us do fun categories, which you called sexism and racism.
Oh no, I didn't do racism. I did.
I don't do racism.
I did sexism.
Okay. Right, let's start with sexism. Sexism was us tracking how many books we have read by male authors and female authors, and it would also count as a separate category for non-binary authors, but neither of us read a single book by a non-binary author.
We're really transphobic, actually.
Awful. I hate it. Like,
that was sarcasm, if anyone is in doubt.
Yeah, I was trying to think. There are years I've read books by non-binary authors because I love the books by Lex Croucher. They're non-binary.
Yeah.
Right, so sexism. This year, books by female authors, I read, it's black printed on blue. 78% of books I read were by female authors and 22% of books I read were by male authors. However, the fun part of the statistic is Charlie then worked out the average rating for male and female authors. And on average, I rated books by female authors 3.7% and books by male authors 3.7 stars, and books by male authors 4, which I was not happy when that stat got churned out. When I first saw the graph, I was like, oh, I love that. Yeah, like basically 80% women, 20% men. That's about where I want to be. And then you churned out that stat and I was like, oh, I don't like that you've done that, actually.
So obviously then I rinsed Hannah, like, wow, Hannah, I guess you just hate women. And then I did my own. I read 29 books. I forgot to do percent, but 29 books by women and 9 by men. My average rating for books written by women was 2.7%.
Get out.
My average rating for books by men was 3.6%.
That's so much worse.
In my defense, right, when you're comparing 29 versus 9, there is a significantly higher chance of ones being bad, especially then when you factor in that a lot of the ones by men was mostly, I think it was 3 authors.
Yeah.
So there was Brandon Sanderson, who I'm already a fan of. So those were rated relatively high. Yeah. I already knew I liked his work. And that was the grand majority of that 9. 2 of them were then Joe Hill. Again, I'm a massive fan of him. And they were 2 of my best books of the year. One of them was my only 5-star of the year. And then there was another one, which was The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, which was a reread technically. And that was also rated very high. So it's only 3 male authors.
Yeah.
Just
say you hate women. Just say you hate women.
I hate women. I just don't think they can write books. Yeah. They should be in the kitchen.
And then for full clarity on myself, I decided to track how many authors I had read who were white versus how many authors who were people of color. And 71% of the books I read were by white authors and 29% were by people of color. I don't believe that's like the worst percentage ever, but I would like that did then feed into my intentions for next year of increasing the amount of books written by people of colour.
And I did not do my own percentage because I knew it was going to be awful. And I don't believe in holding myself accountable.
You're like, I'm not going to own up to anything. How you're a racist.
I am above that. No, I didn't do it. Mostly, honestly, because I couldn't be bothered. Also, because I knew it was going to be terrible. And I will put my hands up that it will be terrible. The really interesting thing, and this isn't a defense, this is just me. The interesting thing about mine and Hannah's data, Hannah does not read series.
That was going to be the next point I got into. Series versus non-series.
Mostly series. So when I was processing both of our data, Hannah's list of authors was like this, and mine was like this.
Yeah.
So I read, a lot of Brandon Sanderson. I read a lot of like very old school books this year. I did the Helen Fielding ones, which I'll go into. I did Jilly Cooper, which I'll go into. I read a lot of series, therefore, if I read a book by a white author, it's then going to dominate a really much higher percentage of my reading. And that's not excusing it at all. I absolutely need to start reading more books and more series by more diverse authors. 100%. I'm not excusing it. All I'm saying is the reason that I didn't do the percentage is because I knew it. I know it's awful. It's something I'm already very conscious of.
Yeah.
So I will put my hands up and be like, yeah, I've done a racist.
And that's the name of the episode. And that leads us into, I don't have the stats to hand on it, but series versus non-series. Although I read 3 books which are part of a series, I did not read any other books within that series, making out of the 42 books I read, there was only 1 multiple author. I read 2 books by Ian McEwan. The main book I read, which would be counted as part of a series, is I read Fourth Wing and then didn't read any of the others.
Good. You know what? 10 out of 10 life choice.
I also have people keep asking me. I have no interest in reading anymore. I saw what the hype was about. I looked at Fourth Wing. I read it. I was like, yeah, that's fine. I haven't heard anything that makes me want to read any more of them.
Don't do it. Spare yourself. Don't do it.
So yeah, 41 authors over 42 books.
Meanwhile, like I said, I love reading a series. So 73% of the books I read were part of a series. And whoa! I think pretty much all of that will be, I then did read more, if not probably all of the series. I think they're
Not Sunrise on the Reaping would be the only one then.
What do you mean?
Sunrise
That's not
on
a series. Not really.
Oh, that counted as one of my series. Of the 3 I mentioned, Sunrise on the Reaping, it's 100%. Of course it counts.
I kind of see it. I see that Ballad as like standalones within the world. I don't see it as part of like...
Okay, people can fight that out in the comments because... I'm not going to unpack that right
yeah.
now.
And yeah, so there was a total of 11 standalone books.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I'm really bad as well. You've had a go at me at this before, very validly, where I can read a series and fucking hate it and I'll keep reading it.
Yeah, you have a real problem with just like... I get it because I'm a completionist person 100%. But with books, I'm quite good because I know about the chunk of time it takes. You're like, yeah, I rated the last one 2 stars, so I'm going to start the next one. I'm like, why? I'm so proud that you gave up on Zodiac Academy because I know a girl through work that read all 25 books in that. And I was like, you won't get that time back.
Yeah, I think my worst one, I read all of Throne of Glass, hated it. 9 books.
You are the only person I know who's hated Throne of Glass, though.
Yep. Yeah, it's one of those opinions I have where I will put my hands up and I'm like, I'm probably wrong, but I did hate it. I feel like I'm going to lose a lot of the viewers in this episode. I'm being so negative about stuff.
Just switching off. Well, luckily, the next section we're getting into is our best books of the year. But before we get into that, please, can I have some more?
Do you want to be on the podcast? Do you want to tell the people your political views? I believe that women shouldn't have rights. He's the next Joe Rogan. Take Hannah's place. Todd, take Hannah's place. Can I just... The size of what you gave me versus what you gave...
I know. Well, mine has got a weird divot, but...
Thank you.
Sorry.
God.
I did know that.
Yeah,
just chose to ignore it.
So, and this is really embarrassing. So one of my favourite books of the year, so basically I'm classing my favourite books as either 4.5 or 5, was Caught Up by Navessa Allen, which I believe I spoke about recently on the podcast, but it's basically a dark romance that's all, he's in the mafia, he kills people and they both do bad things and have really like kinky sex. I've said it before, I'm really invested in this world.
Great.
Like I don't read it for the smart. I'm really, really interested in the world building and the character development. This sounds like a bit. I am deadly serious. I find these
porn
books
for the character building.
No, I do. I get really into the plots of porn. No, I'm kidding. But genuinely, these books, like, there is something comforting about them, even though it's like he's stalking her. He's put cameras in her apartment. They've accidentally murdered someone together. Like, it's like comfort reading to me. It's like a warm hug.
Valid.
Yeah, so this was the second in the series. It's about a guy that's in the mafia and this girl that is like basically an OnlyFans model, but obviously they don't say that because trademark reasons. And it was a great read and I really enjoyed it. And somehow this has ended up as one of my best books of the year.
Good for you.
No.
You can take over stirring. Right, one of mine. I'll get the most predictable out the way first. Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins.
Well, we can both. This was also one of mine.
Yeah, so let's just do that together. Mine is most of my 4.5s and my 5s. There are 2 4.5s that I didn't include because I had too many, so I like ranked them slightly and cut them out. But yeah, Sunrise on the Reaping made it into one of my top books of the year. As you guys already know, neither of us rated it 5 stars, and neither of us loved it as much as Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, but still an amazing addition to the world, and a weird mixture of like comforting to go back to the world whilst being a very good standalone story, but also absolutely heartbreaking and makes you cry multiple times. I was talking to a girl yesterday who gave this 5 stars, but gave Ballad 2 stars.
Wrong.
And forced herself through it to get to this. And I was like, I don't want to speak to you anymore.
No, incorrect.
Yeah.
My mum's just started it, so I'm very excited.
Next, we have One of Us by Elizabeth Day, which was also a bit of an unexpected fave.
Oh, it's cold.
Yeah, the hop wasn't on.
Well, yeah, because it would have boiled.
Sorry.
But I did mostly keep the lid on, so I was hoping it. But you could have blasted it.
But I didn't.
Okay, we've got cold mulled wine. We've got sangria.
Yeah, sangria has ice. We've got tepid wine. One of Us by Elizabeth Day. I was quite surprised by this because I had read Elizabeth Day's, I say previous fiction, she's written like 7 or 8, Magpie. And I had just like, it was a medium book for me. It was good, but I thought it really kind of, the first half was really good and then it kind of lost its way in the second half. So I was expecting similar for this one. And well, that's actually quite rude of you.
He's improving it.
I was speaking and you've interrupted.
Hi, Todd.
Okay, shall I carry on?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think I was really, really pleasantly surprised by this. I actually found it quite hard to genre categorize it as well when I was doing that. It's a contemporary novel. That is genuinely its main kind of genre. I would say there is somewhat a tiny mystery element. That's it. But the best way I can describe it is someone reviewed it, like one of the big reviewers, like The Guardian, as a state of the nation novel, which is a term I'd never heard before, but is definitely what this is. And Elizabeth Day has actually spoken really interestingly about being so glad it's been called that, because as far as her research has shown, there aren't many women who write state of the nation novels, or that are called that because they often get categorized into women's fiction, whereas men write state of the nation novels. She has very interesting points to say about that. But it's essentially about some upper class people doing some terrible things and their repercussions of everyone around them and how that interacts with British politics. I genuinely raced through it in 2 days. It's such a good look at kind of the way the world is now, very clearly pulls on like some of the stuff that happened with the Tory government during COVID, and just I love books that have very important things to say but manage to be page turners. They are often the books that get by far the highest ratings from me. Todd, you can't even see my face.
Good. That's the way it should be. You can push him down.
No, you go, talk.
He has to wash himself in front of the camera. This is probably one of my earliest best books of the year. This is Riders by Jilly Cooper. I love this. I'm actually halfway through rereading it on audiobook right now, which is crazy within the same year.
Yeah.
This is concerningly my mum's copy.
Look at the doggedness.
Yes, bear in mind, this is smutty. So that's horrifying how well loved this book is. This is my mum's all-time favourite book. She forced it upon me, which she's done twice recently, and they've both been excellent recommendations. I forgot to go into ranking my friends. I didn't rank my friends.
Well, should we finish all the best ones and then do that? And
Okay, I'll rank my friends in a bit. So my mum has forced books upon me twice recently, and they've both been really great recommendations, which is, I'm not gonna lie, it's really surprised me. So this is a book. It's one of the kind of the classic, really famous romance novels from like the 80s. Todd is now cleaning his ass on camera.
I was going to submit this to the Spotify editorial team.
They will rate us higher for it. It's a way he could be doing this on the floor. You can move him.
I will move him when I next talk. You continue.
Okay. It's one of the classic like romance novels from the 80s that when you think romance, you think Jilly Cooper. This cover is very nostalgic to me because I just remember like seeing my mum read it and seeing it on her wardrobe bookshelf a lot. And it literally is essentially a close-up of a woman's ass with a hand and a riding crop.
And the hand is just, it's the way it's not squeezing the bum for me. It's just kind of gently cupping the butt.
I would say it's very possessively on it, which I would say suits the book. The thing that I really enjoy about this, so it's surprisingly long. It spans probably about 10 to 15 years. It covers multiple different romances, but the central plot is all around show jumping. So it's essentially about, there's one character, Rupert Campbell Black, who is the baddie. He's like the asshole. He's horrible. And then there's another character who is like, he's a traveler boy who comes from nothing, who gets into show jumping and has this rivalry with Rupert Campbell Black. So it's really good in terms of, you immediately have that story of like the bully versus the underdog. You have someone that you're rooting for. So even though I couldn't give a shit about horses or show jumping, you get surprisingly into it when like throughout the book they're continuously competing, and obviously you're waiting for, you know, the underdog to come good, and you get so incredibly invested that actually the romance stories are kind of like grounded and anchored within this really like competitive, really captivating story about this competition. So it's so fast paced. It jumps between years, it jumps between characters, you know, there's different relationships, people swap partners, people switch partners. It's honestly, it's so fast paced. This would be a 5-star for me were it not for one scene. I don't believe normally for me 5 stars is about, I loved this, I'm always going to think about this, I will reread this feels like it impacted me. It's a gut thing. I have rated books 5 stars before that to me are very flawed, because it's about how they make me feel. I believe that a book can have bad politics or flaws or whatever it is, and I will still rate it 5 stars. That's not to say that I won't criticize it or be critical of it for those reasons, but it doesn't impact its rating for me. This it has, which is something I would not normally do, but this goes so far past what I can remotely
like excuse.
But not excuse, because I wouldn't excuse anything. I always believe in, you know, being critical and thinking about it and being vocal about it.
Yeah.
But essentially, this is so politically horrific, particularly in one scene, which if you're going to read this, just massive content warning for sexual assault, that I just, in good consciousness, could not give this 5 stars.
Yeah. Because
the scene is that horrific. And it would be okay. It's okay to include sexual assault scenes in stuff.
As you said that, I looked at my pile and went, oh my God, at least 2, if not 3 of these books contain sexual assault scenes. That's a bad statistic.
This is not written in a way, like it's not written in a way where it's like this woman got raped. It is written in a way like her husband did to her what was his right and was his friend's right. So yeah, it's not critical of what happens within the book.
Yeah.
And that's why it is unacceptable.
Sure.
It's okay to have rape scenes, but they need to be rape scenes.
Yeah.
Not
which is what
a rape scene excused as
these ones are.
Yeah.
But I didn't quite realise the percentage of the books over here that had them.
Yeah. So would really recommend reading for anyone that doesn't find it triggering, but very much go into it with the critical lens that it is from the 80s and that Jilly Cooper is a horrendous person.
She did die a month ago.
She's still a horrendous person.
Did you push her down those stairs?
I did. She had it coming.
Also, you just said the word critical.
Critical. Well,
that's what Jilly would have wanted.
You know what? If we're going to invent a genre for Jilly Cooper, it's critical.
Right. I want to talk. Move.
You can't bat my cat away with a book called The Hounding.
I can, and I will. All right, next up, we have The Hounding by Zenobi, that is how you say their name, Zenobi Purvis. This is a bizarre book. It is a book set in rural Oxfordshire in, I believe, the 1600s or the 1700s, about, the early 1700s, about a group of sisters who are rumoured to be turning into a pack of wild dogs in the night. It's properly just like one of those books where events are never fully explained, which I often like the sound of but end up low rating because I am someone that kind of wants things explained relatively well to them. But this handled that so well in a way that fit the genre that I could not help but love it. It's also set during a heat wave, which I have said multiple times is one of my favorite things in the world, and the heat wave really adds to this story in the way that it's just sending the town crazy, and you don't know if therefore the town is imagining these girls turning into dogs or they really are turning into dogs. It's very reminiscent of The Crucible, which is one of my favourite plays ever. And basically,
DNF.
to be fair, I did read it in English class, but I always think I would DNF plays more because like reading them is different to watching them.
Yeah, and this was, in my defense, back in high school.
Yeah, it's very reminiscent of The Crucible, and essentially using that kind of story to analyze the way that groups of people, especially small towns that are led by men, especially men, normally the leaders in these towns are church leaders and things like that, will turn on and attack women, especially young women, because they're often the easiest scapegoat for other things being wrong in the area. It's a kind of tale as old as time thing, but Zenobi found this real, very interesting extract in a like paper from 1700s in Oxford about teenagers turning into wild dogs, and wrote this story about like what would that be like. And it's just so encapturing. Like, I was only thinking about this for like the 4 days I read it. That, yeah, just fabulous.
It sounds very good.
Yeah.
What is he doing?
I don't know.
What are you doing, mate? Okay.
Oh.
That was an accident.
It's
weird.
I know.
It's weird. This has confused me. It's weird. This is Hannah's.
Proof. I'm sorry.
And this is a book that Hannah recommended to me. So well done. Yeah, I have this later on. We have a category for like most unexpected love of the year, and I had two, and this is one of them. This is a book essentially about motherhood and babies, and that for me is normally something that I'm not into. I do not want to be a mother. I find media about children and motherhood very tedious because it's not something that appeals to me. Yeah, it's something that's forced on you when you're a woman. And it's just not something that I want to engage with in a way where it's like, it's nothing to do with the media itself, but it's about when there is that expectation of you, I push against it. But this follows a friendship group where one of them has a baby and is really struggling. One of them is pregnant. One of them is struggling to get pregnant and really wants to be pregnant. And one of them doesn't want to be pregnant. And it takes place at a baby shower of the one that's pregnant. And it essentially follows dynamics and mystery and miscommunication between this friendship group, and it was wonderful. I found it laugh out loud funny, which is so rare for me. I don't laugh at books. I think I'm someone in general who laughs very freely, but I don't laugh at books. This was laugh out loud funny to me, but in a way where it didn't feel like it was trying to be. It feels like it's like politically and socially a very important book. I really felt like it had something to say, but that it wasn't preachy. It gave all sides of the argument, which I loved. And the women in it were just so incredibly real.
Yeah.
The book that weirdly I think I would compare this to the most is of an entirely different genre. It is Her Majesty's Royal Coven, which is another one of my favourite books, but not from this year, because that also follows, I mean, it's kind of 4 women. And I would say that they're very comparable in terms of showing a group of different women whose lives and whose goals and whose values are all very different, but presenting them all in a relatively uncritical way where it's not overall that there is like someone that's wrong and someone that's right.
Yeah.
It really weirdly kind of reminded me of that. So yeah, I didn't expect to love this, but I really loved it, and I think I will think about it for a while, and I will recommend it to other people as well.
Yeah, literally. The amount of women my age who I've recommended it to at this point, I'm just like, oh, you should read this book. Like,
yeah.
It's like I'm not being paid by Hollyborn at this point.
Yeah.
I just love the book.
But I'm like, I was so surprised by loving it because I just so normally push against anything that has like motherhood and baby narratives because it's just so forced upon you that I'm like, no, get it away from me. It's not part of my life.
Yeah. Right, my next book will also fall into most unexpected, but I can talk about why it was unexpected when we get to that category. But my next favourite of the year was Wayward by Amelia Hart. This is a book set over 3 time periods, so straddled the fun line in the genres sheet of being both contemporary and historical, which I hated putting that it was both of them. It follows a story set in, I believe, the 1700s, a story in World War II, and a modern day story about 3 women who are connected somehow and kind of following a short period of their lives. The book says itself on the front, men invented the word witch. We call ourselves wayward. It is a witchy book, but it is not a fantasy book. It is essentially magical realism, which is always a fun, weird genre when you get one of those. But the magic and fantasy elements in it are very, very grounded in English folklore and specifically like nature. So it uses a lot about plants and about animals, but very grounded in like the English countryside English countryside specifically, which I really, really loved. And I'll go into why I wasn't expecting to love it in a bit, but I really went into this with very mid expectations. I thought by the cover that it would just be like a very basic book, but in fact dealt with like some incredibly important and heavy topics, whilst again being such a page turner. I loved the blending of historical and contemporary. I love when you work out links between stories, when you're just following different narratives and then you're like, hold on, that links to that and that links to that and something's all linking together here. I am not the biggest fantasy reader, but I do like things like this where you manage to bring in some fantastical or magical elements in a really clever way while it's still feeling like a story that could just like happen to anyone. And yeah, most of the people I've spoken to have also really adored this. I think this was the only book this year that I read in 24 hours because I read it on holiday, and just lovely and witchy. Very good.
Love that. My next is Yellowface, which you want to take credit for this, and I'll give you part credit, but this is also just like a general, it's Yellowface.
I mean, it did win Book of the Year twice, so
exactly. Yeah, this words, I'm so eloquent.
Yeah, so good we do a word-based media.
So yeah, I finally read Yellowface and it completely lived up to the hype. I feel like there's less to say about this because everyone knows that it's good.
Yeah.
It was my first R.F. Kuang book. I'm excited to read more at some point. I do really want to try her fantasy. I found it, I absolutely raced through it.
Yeah.
I always find it the most impressive when people are able to write books with incredibly hateable main protagonists that you also can't put down.
Yeah.
I find a lot of the time when you have a protagonist that you hate, it means that you don't want to continue reading the book, and somehow she avoided that kind of pitfall. I just absolutely tore through this. I think it was, really impressive when like I literally was yelling at the audiobook because I did audiobook it, and I was like literally having to pause it to yell at her like, you silly bitch. And I think that's impressive.
Yeah.
So good.
Next, The Secret History by Donna Tartt. This was on my TBR for the longest time, and I finally decided to do it this year. I didn't rate it 5-star, which in hindsight, I've put it second to the end because it's probably the closest 4.5 that didn't make a 5-star. In hindsight, I'm struggling to remember why I didn't rate it 5-star. I think because it is incredibly dense. When I say mostly I love books that have something important to say but are like page turners, although this has page turnery elements, it is no way quick to get through. It is both longer than it looks. This is my longest book of the year. That is 630 pages. I know. It looks the same as this 350 page book.
And the font doesn't look tiny.
I don't know. It's heavier. It must be thin paper. Like, feel the weight difference.
Yeah.
But
that's crazy.
I know, right? Because I've got longer books I read that are that thick. Shorter books I read that are that thick, but that's 600.
Wow.
I know. It's both long, but also incredibly dense in the fact that it centers around a group of 5 students at a university in New England studying essentially a classics program with like an enigmatic professor who is sort of a mystery in and of himself. And the 5 students are unbelievably pretentious. They are studying classics, and my God, does this book just have their conversations centering around like, translating things from the original Greek versus the Latin and quoting Plato and things like that. And you're just expected to keep up with all of this because you are, I believe, meant to view them as pretentious. It's also a book that's incredibly difficult to describe genre-wise. It is literary, but what I didn't realize is it is essentially a thriller mystery. The first page, the prologue, opens up with them saying a dead body has been found because the snow has melted. And I didn't realize it would be so like that genre-y. I was kind of expecting it to be just more like wishy-washy over a year, but no, it centers around the dead body of a named character being found, and then you wind backwards a year to when that character is alive. It is by far the best book I've ever read written in the first person. I am normally a bit of a first person hater because I associate it with
Fanfiction?
Yeah, fan fiction and autofiction, placing yourself in there. This made me realize how literary and wonderfully written first person can be, and honestly, it really changed my perspective on it. It makes you feel fucking smart reading this because you're reading about like all these big topics, but whilst also managing to be like very, very engaging. This comes with like so much hype. Everyone talks about this, and it is really worth putting your effort into. I got Ken to read this and he rated it 5 stars. So there we go.
The last of my 4.5s before I get onto my 1 5-star of the year, crazy, is Gone Girl. So I forgot to go into this graph, so I'll quickly reference it now. I ranked why I read every book of the year. My top one was peer recommendation, which no shit. But only behind it by one book was actually reading film and TV adaptations, which definitely was a theme for me of the year. I've had so many things over the year that I've watched either the TV or the film, either because I haven't realised that there's a book first, or because I've been like, I won't like that. And then I've loved it. And then I'm like, fuck, yeah, I wish I'd read the book first. So I've kind of gone back and really started to try and read all of the books of stuff that I've watched the adaptions of. And one of these was Gone Girl. Gone Girl is one of my all-time favorite films. I love it. It is my, would the phrase be like litmus test when I'm like, if I'm dating a guy, one of the first dates make him watch Gone Girl, because his opinion on it, I think, speaks a lot about the guys. I will say though, I think I need a new test because the men I date, horrendous. But yeah, so I went into this knowing I would love it because I love the film. I found it a frustrating read because I was reading it going, I wish I didn't know.
Yeah.
I wish I didn't know. I was surprised by the ending because I remember everyone always saying that there is a different ending in the book. And I don't know if I'm forgetting how the film ends or something. I thought it was the same ending.
I don't remember. I've seen it and read it and don't remember.
Yeah, so that was surprising. I absolutely loved it. I think I prefer the film because I would say the film is a 5-star film for me, and this was a 4.5 book. And I don't know if maybe I hadn't seen the film, this maybe would have been a 5-star book for me.
Yeah.
I was surprised that the pivotal moment in the book that we all know gave me such a rush still, even though I knew it was coming.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely brilliant book. If you haven't read it and watched it, read it and then watch it, because both are fantastic pieces of media.
They are. Okay, my final one and my only 5-star book of the year, which I finished 3 days ago. So really getting it in at the last minute, and also a really annoying one to put in this video. It is Yesteryear by Caro Claire Burke, which does not publish... It's not that one. I know.
I really want it.
They did the expensive ones and the cheaper ones, and I got the cheaper one.
I was gonna ask you, and then I was like, no, I'll wait and I'll see.
But they are sending one for Fern, and I'm really intrigued.
Swap it.
I might. She won't know.
How's she gonna know?
How is she gonna know? This does not publish till April 2026, so I am really sorry for putting something in that isn't published yet. But oh my God. I had started to hear rumblings about this a few months ago, and actually I didn't realize I'd also heard rumblings about it all the way back in 2024, because it sold for a huge amount, and the same month it sold bookwise, the rights sold to the film for Anne Hathaway to both produce and star as the lead character in it. So I had heard about it a year and a half ago. That is still in the works, and actually the film should come out the same year the book publishes, so in 2026, which normally means they know a book is going to do well if they're banking on the film coming out at the same time. Yesteryear is, the basic story is about a trad wife influencer who wakes up in the time period that she promotes in her content. In this case, the sort of, I don't know the name for it in America, which is bad. Oh, the pioneer kind of era, when, you know, people were colonizing America and stealing the land from indigenous people, homesteading, that kind of era. She wakes up in that time period, and we follow both that time period that she's woken up with, but also how she got to the point of being the trad wife influencer she is at the moment the book started. So from her essentially in like high school and college through to her having, I think when the book starts, 5 children and being 32. It analyzes so many topics. I thought the main thing it would focus on is the kind of influencer culture, trad wife, and therefore Christianity and fundamentalism in America. It does touch on all of that, but it touches so much more as well, from like homophobia to family values to like the way that not just like Christian fundamentalism works in America, but also fake news and the way that like social media is to blame for some of the rise in fake news, the way that politics works in America and how linked that is to Christianity and family values. I can't even like list the amount of topics it talks about, all while obviously delving very heavily into feminism and gender roles. And I can never remember the name of it. What's it called? Gender, where you think that like women's roles at home and men's roles is working. It's gender something. I can't remember. There's a name for it. Obviously delving very, very heavily into that, picking everything apart, all whilst being a huge page turner. You cannot stop reading this because you're just like, I need to know what's going to happen. You have no idea how and why she's woken up in this time period, but it's also so current. You can see the inspirations the author got both from popular tradwife influencers, the biggest definitely inspiration being Ballerina Farm, which we discussed at the time when the Times article came out, but also people like Nara Smith, but also because it touches on the more fundamentalism, like Mormon side of like doomsday prepper side of religion in America. You can see the influences from memoirs like Tara Westover's memoir Educated. So she pulls on all these things without it feeling like she's just like copying and fictionalizing something. It's incredibly cleverly done. I'm so glad I got 1 5-star read before the end of the year. Part of me is like, did I just rate it 5 stars because I was worrying about it? But no, it is fantastic and absolutely amazing.
Great. So I also only had 1 5-star of the year, which is rare for me. I don't have a huge amount, but I feel like I normally have like 3 to 5.
Yeah.
Like I said, shit year for reading. My 1 5-star of the year was Horns. So I watched the film of Horns way back in the day and I loved it. I will say I've now rewatched it since watching the film, reading the book. It's fucking awful. And me and my housemate Eloise, who also now loves this book, watched it the other day and were both horrified. We were like, what have you done to my baby? So yeah, but I watched it back in the day, obviously because it was Daniel Radcliffe, and I really enjoyed it. My mum, again, gave me a recommendation. She forced this on me as well. I went home to visit for a weekend. I got in the car to be driven to the station to leave, and she just came into the car and gave me it so that like I was leaving, I had to take it.
That's great from your mum.
But because she'd been asking me to read it. This is by Joe Hill as well. It's Heart-Shaped Box, and it is a horror, and I don't read horror, which is why she had spent years trying to make me read it and I just hadn't, so she just literally forced it upon me. I read this, I really enjoyed it. I can't remember if it was a 4 or 4.5 star, but I really loved it. So then I thought, oh yeah, he also wrote Horns, that film that I liked when I was a teenager. I'll read that. Thinking that, yeah, it'd be good. I was like actually blown away. I would say, I'm not sure if this cuts into top 5 of all time for me, but it's top 10 of all time. This is like hauntingly beautiful. It is moving. The plot, by the way, if you don't know, it's about a guy who about a year ago his girlfriend was murdered. The entire town thinks that he did it, and when you start the book you don't know if he did or not. And then he wakes up one day about a year on, and he wakes up and he's got horns, and the horns make everyone that he comes into contact with not tell him the truth exactly, but basically tell him like their worst thoughts and their worst desires. And it follows his story. This is hard to review without giving spoilers. It's really, really hard to review, but it is absolutely hauntingly beautiful. It is so much more meaningful. I would say that this kind of like thriller, horror, some small elements of mystery. It is so much deeper than I thought it was going to be. Probably again because of my preconceptions about the horror genre.
Yeah.
but I didn't expect it to be as deep as it is. It goes into a lot about religion and about the way that women are treated within religion, in a way that there is kind of like a monologue in this. You know, when you're reading a book and you're like, I'm loving this is brilliant, not 5-star though, like really up there. And then there's one monologue where I was like, that has impacted me.
Yeah.
And just completely took it from being like a good book to being like a life-changing book.
Yeah.
I loved it. It's just absolutely brilliant. Like, yeah, I read it, and then so Joe Hill is Stephen King's son, but we
love nepotism.
But he's a deserving nepo baby, and my housemate Eloise is the biggest Stephen King fan. So then I made her read it, and she now says it's top 5 of all time for her. My mum, as of a few days ago, finished reading it and absolutely loved it as well. It's absolutely brilliant. And then so I went to a signing with Joe Hill a few weeks ago, got my mum a signed copy, and part of the signing obviously was for the release of his new book, bearing in mind, so Horn's heart-shaped box. So I thought I knew what I was getting into.
But is it secretly longer or shorter than it appears, like my copy of The Secret History?
I don't know, but I don't know what possibly could be this important.
I'm looking how many pages it is. What's these, like, I want to know what these bits are.
I think they're like art.
Ooh,
yeah.
Okay.
I'm really excited.
How are you ever going to take this round with you?
I don't know.
881 pages.
Oh, but do you want to know my longest from this year?
No, that's a separate category in a bit.
Okay.
Very nice.
Yeah, but I'm really excited to read this in probably about 2 years when I get around to it. Because, Joe, what the fuck is this? I didn't know before I turned up at the signing. I already had a very full bag, and I saw it on the table and I was like, that's not it, is it?
Is it ever that serious, Joe?
Like,
is it ever that serious?
How do you go from this to this? I mean, you can tell he's Stephen King's son.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
They've both got a lot to say. Right, on to our worst.
So, like I said, I DNF'd 3 books this year, which is really unusual for me. I'm terrible at DNFing. I think I average about 1 DNF a year.
Yeah.
I don't know if my attitude towards DNFing changed this year or if I was just reading that shitter books.
Okay.
But I DNF'd a lot. In fact, I had 2 in the same month.
Do them both.
Yeah. So I DNF'd Wuthering Heights.
I think you should leave.
You don't like it.
When did I say that?
I thought you didn't like it.
I like it. I don't love it. I like it. I haven't read it since I was 15. I don't know if I like it. I don't have that strong opinions on it. I have strong opinions on the new trailer.
Yeah, so I, like everyone else, was like, oh, I'll actually read Wuthering Heights because the film's coming out and I want to be able to adequately hate it. The group chat, aka Nikita, you, Nayana, warned me that it's not good. And I started it and I was like, oh, I love this. What are they on about? This is great. I love this. I love a bit of gothic-y. And then, I probably got about a third of the way in and was like, I actually can't do this. Like, it was so bad. Just romance where? Not greatest love story of all time. Where's the fucking...
Emerald is on... Right, Emerald is either cooking up the biggest, most incredible thing ever by giving it that tagline, or Emerald Fennell is on crack. Because what do you mean you're calling it the greatest romance of all time? What are you talking about, Emerald?
Insane. And just all the characters were hateable.
Yes.
Which I struggle with. Like, who am I rooting for in this story? I was just finding it really boring. So I DNF'd it.
Fair.
Do you want to do one? Or
no,
should
you
I
can
do all
2.
my DNFs?
Do all your DNFs, because I don't have any DNFs.
Okay. I also DNF'd Magnolia Parks. So if people don't know what this is, it's essentially like Gossip Girl meets Made in Chelsea. Mm-hmm. So it's basically Gossip Girl set in London. And I thought, oh, I'm going to love this because either it's going to be really bad, that it's going to be a hate read, or it's going to be really bad, that it's going to be addictive trash and I'm going to love it. And it was just neat. It was just really, really bad. Again, I wasn't rooting for any of the characters. The plot line was completely insipid. Just one of those things where it's like, these 2 characters love each other so much, but they're just not together. But no good enough reason was ever given. It was too fast paced in that it jumped straight into the action. People were arguing from page 2 and I was like, I don't care about this argument because I don't know who these people are.
Yep.
Just awful. Did not care. Was not into it. I normally love trash. This was just bad, boring. And then I also DNF'd Dragonfly in Amber, which is the second in the Outlander series. I will talk more about this series and this DNF in a bit when we get to the biggest disappointments of the year.
Fair enough. Should I go for my worst or my least worst?
I started worst.
Okay, my worst, and you can tell it was my worst because it is the only book I don't have a copy of because I got rid of my copy. As someone who is trying to build a library in their own house, getting rid of a book actually means I really, really disliked it. Although I gave it a 2-star rating. I had no 1 stars because 1 star to me means like, I don't know, the author did some terrible shit. Like, I save that for if I am ever forced to read a Colleen Hoover.
Yeah.
But I 2-starred The Maid by Nita Prose. I was hoping for just like a light, fluffy, cozy crime. And what I got was what was trying to be that by using a protagonist who had a quirky difference. But what that quirky difference was just autism, but that could change at any given point based on what the author needed them to do, i.e. be really smart or just totally miss everything that's going on in the scene. So how her autism was portrayed was wildly different in every scene. It was also viewing autism in this way that was like quirky, different. Autism is so underportrayed in women, the fact that like it takes most women over a decade to be diagnosed with autism, especially in the UK. I find it extremely irresponsible to like write a protagonist like this. What could have been a really cool opportunity to have a female protagonist with like a neurodivergency, whether it was autism or ADHD or something like that, was just turned into this like a plot device, but that changed in every fucking scene based on the author's needs. The actual story was kind of what I wanted, like a cozy crime, a locked door mystery, which is why it got 2 stars. But then the twist at the end, there were 2. One of them was so batshit crazy that I'm not going to tell you, but do you care if I tell you?
Go for it.
And then the other twist was my least hated thing. They revealed that the protagonist knew something about the crime the whole time on the last page, which means they were doing that thing where the protagonist, the first person point of view protagonist, was not telling the audience something
I hate that.
so that the rug could be pulled out from you on the last page. That's bad writing. That is not how you write an effective mystery. That's bullshit. What also really annoys me is this has been greenlit to be a film with fucking like someone I really like in. I think it's what's her face.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I'm just like, please don't ever make this. It's been greenlit, but I hope it gets canned at some point because it's bad, really bad. Also, not to be confused with The Housemaid by Frida McFadden. That's a different book and different film that's coming out this year. The Housemaid and The Maid published in the same year. And for my whole life, I've been confused about which is which. I believe they're both bad.
Great. So my next worst with a 0.5 was You Love Me, which was one of the ones in the U series. 3rd, 4th, I don't know. The first 2 of the U series, good trash, like good holiday reads when you want a bit of like a thriller, but that's very like cheesy, good, digestible, yeah. Then the TV show came out between the 2nd and the 3rd, and you can tell that it massively impacted how the story was written. You can tell that the author is in love with Penn Badgley and then just wanted Joe to act. Maybe he's not that bad. Bear in mind,
fine,
he's like,
guys. He killed like a few people, but you can always
yeah,
kill like a few.
He stalks women, but like it's okay. He's sexy, and yeah, it just became just written awfully. Like the way that he was portrayed, all of the women in it, just the worst, like manic pixie. You know, there was one of them. I can't remember if it's this book, but the main female protagonist is such a manic pixie daydream girl that her quirk is that she never gives a book less than a 5-star rating.
Then don't rate books.
Yeah, and she's like on like an MFA or something to like be an author, and she will never give a book less than 5 stars. Awful. I read all of them.
We're now into 2-3 stars. My biggest problem is I mid-rate all books. I don't give out 5s and I don't give out below 3s very often. So we really bunch in around the middle. But I decided that in the worst could go by any other name, by Jodi Picoult. I read this as a consideration for Happy Place Book Club. Didn't end up picking it. Which was interesting because I had vowed a long time ago to never read another Jodi Picoult. I think I judged Jodi maybe a bit too harshly when I was like 19, when I had read 4 of her books in a row and decided she was just like mining for trauma and that she didn't research her books correctly and therefore she's a bad person. I've actually now like watched a lot of interviews with her, and she speaks so well and is so like educated about all sorts of different things and has spoken up about all sorts of important things in American politics. She's very anti J.K. Rowling. Like, I don't think Jodie is a bad person. I think 19-year-old me was being a bit of a bitch. I do think a lot of her books mine for trauma a bit, but so do a lot of authors. She's just one of the most well-known. But this is not a trauma mining book. This is a book about, this is a dual narrative book set across a historical timeline and a current timeline about the fact that Shakespeare might not have been the author of all his works, and it instead ascribes at least some of the works to someone who was a real person who was around the time of Shakespeare and was a woman, but was using Shakespeare to publish because women couldn't publish in that time. An interesting idea, but I then read a lot about this, and I don't mind the discussion around the fact that Shakespeare might not have written all his works, and especially the discussion that a woman could have been using Shakespeare to publish because they couldn't publish. But the original theory that Shakespeare was not the author of some or all of his works comes from the fact that educated people at one point did not believe that someone who did not come from education, i.e. the son of a glover, could have written the works that he did, which is elitist nonsense. So like, that discussion aside, like all of that aside, that doesn't make this a good or bad book. It's just like a discussion to have. This is just like overwritten. Clearly, because Jodie is so popular, there was no editor in this. It needed an editor. You could have lost like 200 pages from this. And also the voice just often comes across as quite like immature. And there was no real voice difference between the historical character and the modern day character. And I was like, the historical is in the 1600s. I should be able to easily tell which character's head I'm in. And I just couldn't. And it was just, overwritten and a bit mediocre. But did lead me down an interesting rabbit hole of Shakespeare theorists.
Interesting. My last worst book of the year with a 1 star was Bridget Jones' The Edge of Reason, which is the second Bridget Jones book. And this, I think I also have it filed under one of my most disappointing. Love the films. Who doesn't love the films? Great films. The books, I mean, I say most disappointing. I did actually kind of know they were going to be bad because my mum told me they were bad. But I kind of was like, oh, maybe it's subjective. Maybe I'll feel different. No, bad. Just incredibly irritating, incredibly like insipid, not that funny, and just wildly problematic. I mean, the calorie counting on every fucking page is one thing, but then just absolutely gobsmacked at the amount of times these books use the N-word. Like that, the first one hit me like a truck. I was like, what? And the annoying thing about it is, I mean, it wouldn't be okay regardless, obviously, but I would at least understand it if it was like Helen Fielding, like, didn't realize it was that bad. But it's very much in there, as in one character keeps saying it and then it's like, you shouldn't say that. But not in like a way where it's like critical enough.
Yeah.
And it's a fluffy fucking romance book. It's not.
That doesn't need to be in there.
It just didn't need to be in there. And it's like, okay, if you're doing it once to have that conversation and to be critical or to say something about the character, fair enough. But that wasn't what was happening. It was repeatedly in there. Like,
that's so weird.
It just, you don't need to. There's other ways to show the politics and personality of a character without just making them repeatedly use the N-word. I don't know. I think my expectations were too high from the film. I was just expecting like a fun little rom-com, and then I was getting the N-word every other page, and I was like,
not?
Weird.
My least favourite, which would also fall into kind of the most disappointing, and I chose this just to wind people up as well, is Orbital by Samantha Harvey. This was the Booker Prize winner in 2004. I have, for a long time, had a mild hatred for Booker Prize noms and winners because I truly believe the Booker Prize is sometimes just trying to pick things that no one else has read before so it can feel smart. And then sometimes I read them and I don't like them and it drives home my belief.
Yeah.
Orbital by Samantha Harvey is also the shortest book I read this year. It's tiny, but my God, is this too long? This should have just been a 5,000 words short story, Samantha. You somehow dragged this out into what still isn't a novel, it's a novella, and it fucking dragged. This book uses the literary thing of like lists, and it's 3 of everything, and after like the 4th chapter, I was like, please stop listing things. Like, you've listed countries, you've listed objects on the space station, you've listed family members, and now you're listing countries again. It probably lists countries like 20 times. It's about 24 hours that these astronauts are on, like, essentially the International Space Station, and in that 24 hours for them, they see the world turn like 24 times or something. I don't know how it explains it at the beginning. Nothing happens. I read literary books. I'm used to books where nothing happens, but this is like another just level of just like, nothing is happening. You're just listing countries, Samantha.
Did you have any honourable mentions? Because I put this in there and then I didn't put any in.
I did, actually.
Okay. I do have kind of one thing that I can say.
I'll do them quickly.
Hannah, like a crazy person, insisted on bringing physical copies of everything.
What is the point in owning so many books if I cannot show them?
Because you had to lug them here on the bus, you crazy woman.
Okay, honourable mentions, and I'll do these quickly, go to Hamnet. I rated this 4 stars, but I think I might have rated it a little bit harshly, but I'd still, it's fine. I still stick with 4 stars, but it's very, very enjoyable. But I'm giving it an honourable mention because the film is coming out in January. I've already seen the film, and it's amazing, and I gave the film 5 stars. So if you want to watch the film, I still would recommend reading the book beforehand because I always think it's worth it. What I find interesting about the film, and this is probably the only example I can think of, is normally when you have book to film adaptations, they are like still good films, but they are doing it for like the popularity, it's like a somewhat blockbuster film. Hamnet is going after the Oscar noms. It is currently like the front runner to be one of the most Oscar nominated films this year, and I think that's really rare when you're doing a book to film adaptation. So I find that very interesting, the way they're doing all of that. But yeah, would recommend reading this first. It's very good. And another book about Shakespeare. Don't know why I've got so many. The Woman in Black, as we mentioned earlier, was determined, both of us, to like read more widely genre-wise this year. And one of the only genres I had never read was horror. There were other books this year that like had horror elements, but this is like a horror book. And I wanted to start with a classic, and I really enjoyed it. It was great. And I'm going to try to read more horror now because it can't jump scare me. It's a book. And my final honourable mention was Norwegian Wood by Haruki Murakami. I read 2 translated books this year because Planet of the Apes counts as a translated book. This being the other one. I know, right?
I mean, I did know that, but also, I only think of like translated books when I'm thinking about like
East Asian literature normally.
Well, no, or like the Odyssey.
Yeah.
Like, I tend to think like historically translated.
Yeah, I often think East Asian because it's had like such a boom in popularity, but then I was like, hold on, Planet of the Apes is a translated fiction. Yeah. This is my other translated fiction of the year.
You know what? I hate that one of my favourite books is French.
Yeah, I know.
Fuck that noise.
I've been wanting to read Murakami for a really long time because it is a bit of a staple in the modern classics realm. Fucking weird book. Absolutely bizarre. And like I had been warned, the portrayal of women is dog shit, but beautifully written. And I would like I put this here because I would like people's advice of whether I should bother doing more Murakami or if it is all just like dog shit portrayals of women that are going to annoy me, especially because Murakami is Japanese. I'm going to Japan in March and I'm ideally looking to pick up, there are bookshops that specialize in like English translations. So like, should I dig out some more? Should I not? Is there other Japanese authors I should be looking out for? But like, really well written, beautiful book. Ass portrayal of women, Murakami. Women are not breasts on legs.
Well, I am.
It's like legs, breasts.
I have 2 honourable mentions. One of them is the fact that I got into Agatha Christie this year. And I don't know what happened because I got into it and like fell in love with it. And then I don't know, I've just had other things that I've like wanted or needed to read more urgently. But I did want it to become like more of a regular, like every few books do a little Christie, short and sweet. Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, sweet. And yet somehow I fell off and didn't do that. But I need to bring that back for the new year because I enjoyed getting into that. And it's always nice when there is like something that's, I guess, a bit more of like a classic that you discover is actually good.
Yeah.
And then The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, which was technically a reread for me, but I read it first when I was a teenager. Yeah. So it was quite nice that I couldn't really remember.
That's always nice.
Especially when something is like a crime mystery. But yeah, really enjoyed that. Read the author, I can't remember his name, his Wikipedia page after, and discovered that he died before ever being published, which is crazy. But the thing is, I never realised that. I think I knew he was dead, but I never realised it because there were so many books in that series. He wrote all of the books and then he died.
Oh.
And then they were all published after,
Oh.
which is crazy.
Oh, that's sad.
Really
So
sad.
we never knew how big they got.
Exactly. And they're massive. But yeah, actually, at least the first one really worth a read. At some point, I might continue the series, but I think it's going to be one of those ones where the first one's good and then it's, you know, because I think the way I feel about it, because part of the plot is that essentially like the two detectives, which neither of them are actually detectives, but they take that role in the book, two very different people thrust together through a weird circumstance.
Yeah.
So whenever it's that, I'm like, how can you do a sequel? Because I mean, I guess it's like, well, they know each other now, but it's like I don't want that. I want the two people randomly. Yeah.
Right, let's go into Quickfire.
Quickfire.
What was your top reading month?
March. July was a close second, and July was a close second, but then actually my top rated month.
I see. Interesting. Mine was April, where I read 6 books.
Nice.
Or finished 6 books, as that's the way storybooks are.
Actually, I probably have it up here. March, I did 6.
Nice.
Yeah.
What was your longest book?
My longest book, and actually let me find how many pages is, because I forgot to write that down. Okay, my longest book, 1,344 pages, will be a surprise to no one aside from apparently Hannah. It is Wind and Truth by Brandon Sanderson. So this was December, I believe. So this just made it in there.
Who's got that much to say?
Brandon Sanderson.
Although, bastard. Yeah, no one should have that much to say.
No, and I would say Brandon Sanderson has that much to say, but he really doesn't. His books are way too long. It was a 60-hour audiobook.
I mean, you wanted your money's worth.
It was a good book, but I got sick of it. I think 60 hours in, you get sick of any book.
Absolutely. Yeah. Longest book I've already mentioned. It is The Secret History by Donna Tartt. 620 pages, but most books I read are 350 pages on average. This looks exactly the same length, so I don't know what fucking witchcraft is going into this paperback. It must be like Bible thin pages. I'm unsure, but yeah, by far the longest book I read. This is longer than Catabasis, and like Catabasis is a long book. Shortest book already mentioned, Orbital by Samantha Harvey. Somehow still too long, and this is 120 pages.
My shortest book was Life, the Universe, and Everything.
Which is?
It is the third in the Hitchhiker's Guide series.
Nice.
Todd is helping us out there, rearranging our background.
Favourite non-fiction?
Didn't have one, didn't read one.
I read 4, and my favourite was Chavs by Owen Jones. I think this ended up as my favourite because it became much more topical during the time I was reading it. Whilst I was reading this was when the disgusting protests and riots happened against basically immigration in this country, and all the England flags went up and everywhere. This book was originally written in 2008 and had a paragraph about the tendency for English fads to explode in this country when there is like anti-immigration sentiment, and how it's like this misjudged place of like English pride. So the timing of that was just like very good, but also very disturbing.
My most unexpected love, aside from So Thrilled for You, which I've already talked about, was Murder on the Orient Express. Yay. I don't know. Like I said, not my genre. Also, I thought definitely had a preconception about it. You had told me to read this because I didn't know the ending, and that was my only motivation, was like, yeah, fair enough, at some point I'm gonna get it spoiled for me. And it wasn't anything else. It was purely just defensively trying to not get spoiled, even though I think I probably never would have read it anyway. And then I really, really enjoyed it, and I'm really happy about that. It's nice discovering kind of like a new genre or category of books that you really enjoy.
Yeah. My most unexpected fave was Wayward. I've already talked about like the basic plot of this, but essentially it was my unexpected fave because this fucking paperback cover makes it look cheap as shit. Like, I hate this. It's a book about nature and like women's power. Why is it hot pink? It's only hot pink because there's a hot pink book trend the last few years. Like, we talked about it, like the hot pink trend of like the witch book.
Her Majesty's
Royal Coven. Bunny by Mona Awad. Like, there's a lot of hot pink books. I think they did that because of this. And not only does it not explain what the book's about, I think in particular this cover makes it look like an airport cheapy shit book when it is quite a deep, serious book about like women's power and witchcraft. So this was the most unexpected. And also I want words. with the cover designer.
My most disappointing, aside from Bridget Jones, was Outlander by Diana Gabaldon. I don't know how you say her
Great
name.
surname.
Yeah. So basically with Outlander, I started watching the TV show, immediately was like, I am obsessed with this. Like, I was like, this is so my kind of thing. Like, really just enjoyed it. Think I watched like 3 episodes and was like, I'm going to stop. I'm going to read the books. Because I was like, yeah, I'm going to love them. And then I read the first one and I was like, didn't really do it for me. I think I probably gave it about a 3-star. Like, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't great. I think I just found it really domestic. Like, I was expecting quite big, like, drama, especially, you know, it's essentially the story of a woman. She's from the 40s and she travels back 200 years by accident. She's in the Scottish Highlands at the time, so she just ends up in
The
18th century.
The 18th century.
Yeah.
Ends up in 1740.
Yeah, in the Scottish Highlands as an English woman, and kind of follows her story. I think I was expecting the stakes to be a bit higher. You know, there's this whole time travel. I knew it wasn't going to be, obviously it is technically fantasy because she does time travel. And I wasn't expecting it to be like, you know, wizards and stuff. But I expected there to be more about the fact she's time travel. And instead it felt very domestic. That it was just a lot of like the day-to-day drama. And I felt like a lot of it had nothing. It would have happened even if she was from that time era, basically. There was some stuff that was unique to her being a time traveler, but not enough. It just felt very like low stakes. But yeah, I was like, you know, I did enjoy it. And I guess maybe I'm being too harsh because I'm kind of going into it with a fantasy mindset, and it is fantasy, but it's more, I would say, like a
realism.
Yeah, it's more, and it's like a historical romance, I would say, as well. So then I started the second one, was feeling the same way. I was just a little bit bored by it. And then she got aroused watching horses fuck, and I DNF'd it. There was no coming back from that.
I've got to say, I'm halfway through the first series of the TV show. That show is unnaturally horny. Like, it needs to calm itself down. And I might stop watching it because it's had some scenes where I'm like, no, you're walking the line of things I'm not happy with right now.
Interesting.
I don't know how far you got.
I can't remember either.
Well, yeah.
You don't like the horniness, or is
no,
it
no, that spanking scene was awful.
Yeah,
that was terrible.
It's worse in the book.
Good.
And they just moved past it.
Yeah, no, that was the point, that she just moved past it. I was like, oh, okay, we're just moving past this. It's just like opens on sex scenes unnecessarily. It's more the fact that every cliffhanger is her nearly getting raped by someone, where I'm like, every cliffhanger in this show, how many times can this woman be nearly assaulted or nearly raped?
That's the thing, like, I'm not that far. I'm probably still on the first season as well, because I kind of stopped watching it after like not loving the books. But yeah, the book is essentially just like her almost getting raped, and then her almost getting raped, and then her almost getting raped, and then her almost getting raped, and it's like there are other plot devices.
No, not according to this. Yeah. My most disappointing, I've already talked about Orbital, but to be honest, I wasn't that disappointed because I already have a mild hatred of Booker prizes. So I will give my most disappointing award to Lessons in Chemistry. I was relatively excited about this because it is historical fiction. It's set in the 1960s and it's a very female-focused story about female empowerment. This contains one of the most unexpected rape scenes I've ever read, which I was just like, again, fine for books to include, and it's not like it didn't critically analyze it. I didn't know it was going to be there in chapter 2. And B, well, now I've just said that, you would think, oh, it's quite a serious book. Yes, it is at some points, but at other points it has the most bizarrely comic tone I've ever read. Tonally, this book is all over the place, and I just could not settle on what it was trying to be, and therefore I was just like, oh, this wasn't what I was expecting. Bonnie.
Next, we're going to judge a book by its cover. These are our favourite book covers of the year. My first one is a book that I really didn't enjoy. It is The Lamb. I will say I didn't enjoy this book, but the graphic design is 10 out of 10. It's beautiful. It suits the book. I hate to say it, I think that the cover is why this book is popular. It looks very aesthetic. It looks very like you buy it and you Instagram it, and I think that's a significant part of why this is so hyped. Are we taking in turns or just
just go through all three?
Next, I have Endling. This is a book that I did really, really enjoy, just it didn't quite cut it onto my top of the year. Again, it has a really beautiful cover, but I like that it's not so aesthetic and so beautiful that it doesn't almost detract from the book. I really enjoy the little cloud as a little snail because it's about snails. And then, gotta be said, I do love this cover. I think it's partly, like I said, that nostalgic of seeing it so much growing up. It's partly, I love the white with the gold and the red. I think it's lovely. And I also think that considering what the book is, I think that the cover perfectly communicates it. It's smutty. There's the riding crop for the horses. There's even down to the positioning of the hand. Like we said, it's possessive. It's not groping. It's like an ownership. And I would say that it perfectly fits the book.
Okay. My 3 favorite covers of the year. First up, Loved One by Aisha Muhara. This book I mid-rated, but oh my god, this cover. It's like a work of art, whoever did this cover design. I think it is art. It is literally a piece of art. It's just absolutely beautiful, and it's also just like very fun. I love the kind of messiness of the drawing. It feels very like modern and cool, and it's also very different. I haven't seen a lot of covers that look like this, so it really caught my eye. Next up is The Hounding by Zenabi Purvis. I adore this cover, and when I was reading at home, Mum literally stopped me to be like, oh my god, that cover's brilliant. I was like, I know. It's also so clever. It's about these girls that might be turning into dogs. So it's someone doing a shadow puppet of a dog. It's clever, but also extremely eye-catching. Genius. And then it's one of the reasons it's already getting so much hype. Yesteryear by Caro Claire Burke. As you started to mention earlier, on some proof copies, and I don't know if it's going to be on the final copy, this is a real rip on a 2-cover book, which is impractical as fuck if you were trying to put it on a shelf. Mine is not a real rip, but regardless, this is a fantastically eye-catching cover. It's brilliant.
Yes. Is that our quickfire done? So our next and last section is all about our 2026 reading intentions. Yeah. I didn't actually write any down. I meant to, and then I think I just ran out of time. But definitely actually reading my one non-fiction of the year would be a great place to start.
And not being a racist.
Actually, no, I have no intention of fixing that.
Oh, okay.
I think it's great to be racist. Sarcasm, to be clear. I think it's really clear, but sometimes I worry about people from other countries.
Especially if I send it to the Spotify editorial team.
Yes.
Okay, my reading intentions, which then feed into the TBR, is more classics and modern classics. I actually didn't read any classics this year, and only read some more modern classics, and there are a load of classics I want to get through. So more of that. More translated fiction. I read 2 this year.
Are we not taking in turns?
Oh, sorry. I thought you were done.
Well,
no, sorry. Classics.
Mine's the same as well, actually, because I only read 1 from last year and I fucking DNF'd it. So more classics. I do normally read more classics, but normally I read that they're romance. Yeah. They're Jane Austen, let's be real. So I do, and it comes into my TBR in a bit, but I do want to get more into reading other classics that aren't Jane Austen and similar.
Yeah. More translated fiction. I read 2 this year, with Planet of the Apes being one of them. And yeah, translated fiction's had a real boom in the last few years, and there's a lot of amazing Japanese and Korean and Chinese literature that I haven't got to that I want to get to, basically. And I'm really glad translation's having a boom, because it opens up so much more opportunities to find really amazing books.
I want to read across more genres. This is just a reoccurring yearly. I want to continue to read crime, because seemingly I maybe actually enjoy it. I feel like I need what's another genre? I guess maybe I wouldn't mind getting back into spy novels. I guess that kind of crosses over with crime. But when I was younger, I really loved the young James Bond.
Yeah.
And I feel like there was another one as well. But teeny spy novels. I think I would quite like to read an actual adult spy novel. So recommendations, please, for all of these guys. Recommendations. Whether it's us saying we want to read more of something, or whether it's just based on the books that we've said we love so far, please give us recommendations.
Definitely. I want to continue seasonal reading. I tried quite hard this year to theme my reading to the season, i.e. reading some Halloween themed books, whether they were horror or just generally spooky around Halloween. Reading books set in high summer and heat waves in the summer. And I like doing that. It's a fun way when you've got quite a lot on your TBR to choose what to read. So I want to continue doing that.
Yes. And I, jokes aside, do want to read more diversely. Again, I think this is like a yearly resolution as well. But I'm really, really guilty of when I pick books. Like, because most of the time, like I said about my TBR, I just do things on a whim, which means that I'm not putting a conscientious effort into reading diversely. And a lot of my reading is based very much on what's trending, what's historically popular. And unfortunately, that doesn't always lend it to being the most diverse. So I absolutely need to put more of a conscientious effort into reading more diversely. Because, I've done a racist.
I would like to use audiobooks more. As I said, I listened to not a single audiobook this year, and I've just been hyping up that, like, oh, I've got Dora books and Libby. Did I use it this year? No.
But you are also welcome to my Audible login for all of the many books that I have.
Thank you. So yeah, I'd like to use audiobooks more because didn't do that this year, and it is a great way to read.
Yeah.
I have another. I'd like to read a fantasy book. I have this really weird thing where, like, obviously the gateway for a lot of YA literature is like fantasy, and like we both grew up loving Harry Potter, duh. And then like there's a lot of other YA fantasy. And then when I was in my early 20s, I read all of Game of Thrones, so high fantasy, and adored it. And since then have read like one fantasy book a year, if that, and I've just really fallen off the fantasy wagon. I don't.
Well, apparently I don't like it.
You don't like it. And a lot of people like read romantasy. I don't really like.
I was just that offended that she didn't like romantasy. No, I'm kidding. I'm not.
I don't love romantasy. I enjoy it. Like, I read all of ACOTAR and it was enjoyable.
I just love that we're not fixing the background.
It's fine. It's too late. But it didn't fill me with like a desire to read loads more. I read the first Fourth Wing. I'm not interested in reading the rest. So I think I actually need to pivot back to like fantasy and give that more of a go. So I want to read some fantasy next year.
Okay, well, if only you knew someone that could give you recommendations.
Don't worry, I've already read myself 2 recommendations. But I also want yours. All right. TBR. Do you know how many books you have on your TBR, by the way?
That I'm mentioning?
No. On your TBR.
I can look, but it's quite hard because mine are split. So I have some on Storygraph, some on Audible.
Oh, okay.
And some up here.
Good, the brain. Yeah, my Storygraph number is 136 with 84 physical TBR. That's not healthy.
No. But I've picked out 5 in particular that I want to talk about.
5!
Ah, cute.
Yay. Oh, no, 6. Sorry,
Okay.
6. I haven't got one of them.
Okay, yeah.
So, speaking of fantasy, which I just said, the 2 I've kind of narrowed it down to maybe doing, and I probably then won't do this, is the Poppy War trilogy by R.F. Kuang, because I am a R.F. Kuang stan. I've spoken about it before. Adore her. Haven't read the books she started off as, and it is a fantasy trilogy, so I think I would really love it. But the only thing that might stop that being the fantasy I read next year...
You can read more than one.
What? The first fantasy I read next year is I have a copy in my house of The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. I don't have copies of The Poppy War. So if it's in my house, I am more likely to pick it up. So that'll probably be what it ends up being. And yes, also I can read more than one fantasy in a year.
Yes, you can. My first one is, and I've technically already started it, and Hannah bought me this.
I bought you that.
It is Wide Sargasso Sea. I never know how Sargasso Sea. So Hannah bought me this for my 30th because it's basically like, would you say like a retelling of... Why am I now completely blanking?
Jane Eyre,
Jesus fucking Christ.
Yep.
Which is one of my favourite books. So Hannah got me this and a copy of Jane Eyre for my 30th. And I started this because I think it was still in my bag from when Hannah got me it. And I ended up like on a tube and like, fuck, I've got nothing to do. So I pulled it out of the bag and started reading it. And like was immediately really gripped and loved it. But obviously this was right before the Christmas break because... my birthday's in December. So then I went back for Christmas and then just never picked it up again.
Yeah.
And because I never read, well, I do, but barely ever read physical books.
Just finish the sentence.
Like I never read. But because only 10% of my reading was physical books, like it means that when I'm picking up, like thinking about my TBR, and because this isn't in my, I need to add it to, and I need to add like all of my physical TBR to my Storygraph TBR because I just scroll my TBR and I forget about the books that I physically have.
Yeah.
So like I went from really enjoying this and being like, oh, I cannot wait to finish this, to then not reading it for a couple of weeks because I went home, and now I haven't picked it up again. So I need to prioritize actually finishing this.
Yeah.
Because I was really enjoying it.
Are you going to start it again or pick up where you left
I'll
off?
start it again because it's been a
I was
year.
gonna say, it's quite short. Okay, close to the top of my TBR list is The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison. I skim read parts of this when I was 16 because it was set as one of these like 6 texts that we could read and then compare and contrast 2 of them when I was starting my English literature A level. I didn't end up choosing this from skim reading parts of it, which is like a terror. So then it's just been sitting on my shelf ever since. A load of people whose tastes I really, really look up to. This is one of their favorite books ever. It also is a modern classic by a woman of color, which, to be honest, in the classics realms is pretty rare because that's how classics unfortunately work. So it's like a very like important book and ticks a lot of boxes for me. So I just need to read it, but I've been kind of like ashamed about the fact that I skimmed part of it and haven't read it, which makes me more unlikely to pick it up because it's like admitting like, oh, I'm finally going to read The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison. So I'm going to take this home with me over Christmas.
My next one is My Brilliant Friend by Eleanor Ferrante.
Not this shortlist,
Yeah.
but it's on my TBR.
Yeah, so this is one of those things, you know, when you hear about something for the first time and then you relentlessly hear about it.
Oh my God, everywhere. That book follows me around. Also, French translation. You're obsessed with French translations.
Ooh. Is it French or it's Italian?
Oh my God, I've been thinking this whole time.
It's set in Naples, so I would assume the author's Italian.
For some reason, I thought it was a French translation. We'll fact check that. Yeah, no, this book recommendation follows me around. Like, I get recommended it probably 6 times a year.
Yeah. So this follows 2 women through their lives growing up in a poor neighborhood in Naples. And I think from what I've understood, the 2 main themes are essentially like envy in like female friendships and social class. There's just, I don't know, something about it that appeals. And yeah, it kind of went from someone mentioned it and I went, oh, that sounds good, I'll add it to my TBR. And then after I did that, I have heard about it so much. And I think it's just, I was probably hearing about it before, but just noise, never really paid attention, because since I have consciously heard about it, it seems to just be popping up everywhere. So
Completely anonymous author.
really,
Yeah, no, they've never been uncovered. People make it their life's mission to try to uncover who they are, which is kind of an invasion of their privacy when they've said they don't want to be uncovered. But yeah, no, completely anonymous author.
crazy.
Next, you'll be pleased about this, maybe, On Chisel Beach by Ian McEwan. I have been reading 2 Ian McEwans a year for the last 2 years with 2 friends who are also reading them along with me in a weird Ian McEwan book club that we for some reason do. And this is the next one, and I have decreed I'm going to read it over Christmas because it's nice and short and it will bump my numbers up. No, but I've been wanting to read it anyway. I truly have no clue what it's about, and I have refused to write down the plots of the books that I have coming up. I just have written down my feelings, because if I don't know, then I'm not going to look it up at this stage. It's just on the TBR. But
Fair
you
enough.
have said you had an argument with your English teacher about the ending of this, so I...
Not the ending, the main theme of the
the
entire
main
book.
theme of the book. So I want to either back Charlie up or fight with her.
You're going to back me up.
Yeah, it sounds like your English teacher was nonsense, because I have heard people talking about it on TikTok, and I think it's what they said you said it was about, and I was like, okay, this
It
weird.
is explicitly about that. I cannot stress
What's
enough
wrong with your English
how
teacher?
dense you have to be to miss it. I need to reread it actually, because I need that like...
But also, it got bumped up my Ian McEwan TBR because I found out they made a film of it with Saoirse Ronan, and I really like Saoirse Ronan, so I want to see that. So,
Yeah.
and also, yeah, I do kind of tend to either front load or back end my year with a load of short books to bump my number up. But I really enjoy short books, and there's some fantastic short books, so I don't think that's a bad habit.
Yes. My next, which is one that sat on my TBR for years at this point, it is The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller.
Also on mine.
Yep. It's a retelling of the story of Achilles, if you could not work that out by the title. I read Circe, absolutely loved it, and everyone always says that The Song of Achilles is so much better, and I very much have been doing this thing with it where I know I'm going to love it so much that I am savouring it.
Yeah.
I don't want to start it because I know I'm going to fucking love it. So I think what I'm going to do the next time I have a series of really shit books,
Yeah.
I'm gonna stick it in there, but because I need to stop just not reading it because I know I'm gonna love it. Because it's what I'm doing with an entire author, Terry Pratchett, who has written a lot of books, so it's even more insane to do. Because it's not like I'm going to run out anytime soon, but I know I'm going to love Terry Pratchett, so I refuse to read him.
Do you want to know the stupid reason I haven't read Song of Achilles yet? So any books that have been published more than 3 years ago, I have an absolutely dogged determination that I will not read them until I can find a copy in a charity shop. Even if
libraries
I
exist.
Take it from a library or borrow it off a friend. I've just set it's because my TBR is so long. It's a good way of making me read books I already own by setting myself a challenge of not being able to read something until I find it in a charity shop. The sad thing about Songs of Achilles is I was in a charity shop, spotted it. The woman who was at the shelf before me picked it off the shelf and went and bought it. And I literally just watched it walk past me. I was like, no, it's gone. Obviously, I will find a copy. It was a very popular book. But that's my fun little mission to myself. I like to set myself games. Next on the TBR, on very much the topic of reading more classics, is Tessa the D'Urbervilles by Thomas Hardy. This, I'd say, is one of the big classics, like when you think of like the really well-known classics that I never read. Like, I've never read this one. A lot of the classics I read when I was like 16 and I've kind of forgotten them, so I'd like to reread some of them. But this one I've just never got to. Do I know what it's about? Do I fuck? I've got no idea. I just know it's very famous and people love it. So I'll be reading that.
My next is also a classic.
Oh, lovely.
And it's actually Anna Karenina. Anna Karenina.
Fucking hell, girl.
I know.
Isn't that 900 pages long?
I think so, yeah. I may live to regret this. So I have never, ever, ever had any interest in reading Russian literature. I associate Russian literature with a thing that is read by performative men.
Yeah.
Like,
I see that.
Surely no one actually wants to read Tolstoy because they are enjoying Tolstoy, right? And I also associate it, and again, it plays into the performative male thing. I associate Russian literature with like Lolita, which is like even more like just...
I love Lolita, but you have to have a long conversation about Lolita. You can't just go around being like, I love Lolita.
There's two groups of people that love Lolita for very different reasons.
Yes.
This is where the issue lies.
Yes.
I see it the same as Fight Club. I love Fight Club because it is written by an openly gay man who was critiquing toxic masculinity. That is a very different reason to the reason that men love Fight Club. Yeah, so I have never had any desire to explore Russian literature before. And then I saw a clip, and this was fairly recently, of Jennifer Lawrence saying that like her all-time favorite book is Anna Karenina. So she described it as a tabloid of princesses. And I went from having no interest to being like, TBR, top of the TBR. I suddenly was like, fucking hell. I would eat that up. It also is helped by the fact that I've been watching The Great recently, which is and it's marketed as this, but like essentially a wildly inaccurate retelling of Catherine the Great.
Okay.
And I think that's kind of inspired a bit of an interest in like Russian history. I think it does predate Anna Karenina by like 100-ish years. Don't quote me on that. But like still the general like Russian history aristocracy. So if it is about a tabloid of princesses, sign me the fuck up. And then the thing that sealed the deal is whenever I'm like adding something to my TBR, thinking about adding it to my TBR, I always like to go on Storygraph and I see the reviews of my friends.
I love that feature on Storygraph. It's so good.
Right? And this is so juicy. So 2 people I know have read it.
I know Ken has read it.
Ken has read it and has rated it 5 stars.
Yeah, I knew that.
Nikita has read it and rated it 2 stars.
Oh, they're a married couple.
And
that's exciting.
I am absolutely fascinated. I'm waiting to bring it up with them in person. But that sealed the deal because I'm like, well, I need to read this because I need to know whose side I'm on.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Oh my God, exciting.
I'm excited.
Next on my TBR is 1,000 Splendid Suns by Khaled Hosseini. Hosseini. So this is a story set in Kabul about 2 women, and it's essentially set over years of their life and their friendship as the Taliban take over Afghanistan. So many people whose tastes, again, that I really look up to have read this book. And it's again one of those books. I mentioned this once to my friend Simona, who's also really into reading, and I was like, oh, I haven't read it. And she was like, you haven't read, and I kind of often hate when people do that, but I got it because she was like, you haven't read A Thousand Splendid Suns. It's apparently like vitally important whilst being an incredible book. You know, obviously when it originally came out as well, this came out quite a few years ago, it was during the time, like during the war, the British war with Afghanistan, and the Taliban being, you know, in charge of Afghanistan. So like it was very relevant at the time, but it's still very important now. So, but I've also heard it's like the most heartbreaking book in the world, and but one of those heartbreaking books that's very beautiful, which is like my favorite genre, where something is so heartbreaking but you're also like, but it was so perfect. So yeah, excited for that. Excited is a weird word for that one. I have anticipation for that. I don't know.
My last, not of my TBR, but TBR that I'm going to talk about is conveniently in the room, which is extra convenient because it's not out yet.
Hell yeah.
It is once again. We're going to be talking about yesteryear. So I saw this like maybe a month ago, and it was in a TikTok off the publishers, because the design is with the tear, and it was the publishers doing the tearing and basically talking about how they tried to get it manufactured that way and they couldn't. So I think they were doing something like 100 for like PR purposes that they were actually like physically tearing. And people say don't judge a book by its cover. I absolutely did. I went, that is an insanely beautiful cover, and I added it to my TBR. At no point did I look up what it was about. I cannot stress enough the fact that I watched that TikTok, added it to my TBR. Don't think I even physically did it. I think I just added it to my mental TBR.
Yep.
And then moved on with my life until about 3 days ago when I saw Hannah add her review. And I was like, you are telling me that this is one about tradwives, which you know my fascination.
We had probably a 2-hour conversation about the Ballerina Farm Times article. Like, we had such a long conversation about it.
I love the whole tradwife thing in 2 ways. In one way, where I'm like, it is socially and politically fascinating and horrifying, and I could talk and read about it forever. I also love it in the way where I'm a little bit worried that one day I'm just going to have a mental break and become a tradwife. Yeah. Because I unironically enjoy a lot of the tradwife things. I love cleaning, I love organising, I love cooking, I love knitting, I love gardening. And sometimes I get really stressed at work and I'm like, should I just marry a rich man and become a tradwife? But obviously I know no, because it is a very complex thing that's not as easy and lovely as, oh, you just get to do some knitting. So I immediately was like, sign me the fuck up to that. And then the fact as well that it involves that time travel element, which is what I was looking for in Outlander. And I wanted Outlander to have... Outlander does touch on the fish out of water and the ever so slight, you know, feminist issues, but nowhere near enough. Like, my big issue with it was the fact that there was almost no introspection from any of the characters, either from the woman that's time traveled and then later her partner that finds out that she's from the future, and they just move. She literally, sorry guys, spoilers, but obviously this is going to happen at some point. She tells the guy that she meets that she's from the future, and he literally is basically just like, all right then, and then never asks a single question about it. And so basically, yeah, what I wanted in Outlander, I wanted that, oh, this isn't as feminist as what I'm used to, and there's some of that, and I wanted the fish out of water. So I'm really hoping that this has a bit more of that, like, fish out of water. I know maybe not that much because she is like a tradwife, so she will have some of the skills, but I'm hoping that it will kind of tick some of those boxes that Outlander didn't for me. So I was so excited when I was like, I wanted to read this based on the cover, and then I found out what it was about, and I was like, well, that is exactly what I want to read. And this, moral of the story, is why you should judge a book by its cover.
We are not being sponsored by this book, by the way. It sounds like we are, but we are not. My final thing on my TBR is another shameful one. It is Intermezzo by Sally Rooney, and the reason why it is shameful is because I got this the day it published, because I went to Sally Rooney's event, because I find her an incredibly, like, amazing, fascinating person to listen to, and I went up to the signing table, got her to sign the bloody book, and haven't read it. So this wasn't just like a signed copy I picked up in a shop. I was in front of her when she signed her name in this and still haven't read it. And it's because it got quite mixed reviews. A lot of people say it is... The problem with Sally Rooney is Normal People was so popular and so amazing. She's not going to do that again, probably. It's also quite depressing. It's about grief. And I have decided that this is a winter book. I will not read this in summer. So then both summers I've had it, I'm like, can't read it. So I will fucking read it this winter because I can't go another whole year without reading it. It's dumb and shameful. So, yeah.
I, in my head, always confuse Sally Rooney with the one that had the affair with Boris Johnson.
You could not get more different authors. Dolly Alderton.
Yeah. And I also always confuse then Dolly Alderton with, and she's not even an author.
Emerald Fennell?
No.
Oh, because I confuse them too.
And it's for some reason, because I don't, it's not visually, it's not about what they do. And weirdly, I want to say it's the name, but their names are nothing alike. But I confuse her with Daisy May Cooper.
I actually do see what you're going
for.
Because I confuse Emerald Fennell and Dolly Alderton purely because they are tall women with very blonde hair with posh accents.
But this isn't even visual or anything. I don't know
but
what
I see what you mean. No, I do get it, and I can't put my finger on
But it's like
why.
whenever I see one of their names, I have to remember, is that the author or the like comedian actress? Like I can't, like it takes, I don't know. So those three people are the same person to me.
Sally Rooney, so not in that bucket. Sally Rooney.
I mean, I'm sure, but also it takes me a second.
Just to give a shout out to Sally Rooney and bring it back to something we were talking about earlier. When Sally Rooney was asked recently, when are you next like publishing your book? She's like, I won't be publishing for a while because I'm refusing to publish in Israel and it's becoming a problem that I now can't publish in the UK because of that. So until that situation resolves itself, I won't be publishing. And I was like, fuck yeah, go
for her.
Fantastic. That is our reading wrapped. Did you enjoy 2 hours of us wittering on?
Definitely more than 2 hours.
I know, but there's huge gaps in there.
Probably 2.5 hours.
Jesus. I think I thought this would take 45 minutes.
Oh no, I knew this was a 2-hour episode. Yeah, we really hope you enjoyed listening to this. Like we said, genuinely, please leave recommendations. Also, let us know if it's a recommendation for her or me or both of us, please, just to help us narrow it down.
And also, a lot of people have been asking, our story graphs will both be linked below, and we will also link both our personal Instagrams because you need to start doing it again. Both of us post book reviews on our Instagram stories as well. So it's like, you don't want to post that? Is yours only on your personal?
No, it's not that. It's the reviews. I was enjoying doing them. And then, when you have that perfectionist thing of like, I missed a few. So then I was like, well, I can never do it again.
That's dumb. That's why I'm holding you accountable.
No, but I'm now. I've got about 6 months worth of reviews and I can't just take a gap and do it. I would need to go back for my weird perfectionist completionist. I can't sit down and write 6 months of reviews.
Then take a gap.
No.
Then start just... okay, well, I'm just holding you accountable by throwing you under the bus. We both post reviews on our personal Instagram stories as well. If you want to follow that, I have just been rudely silenced by TikTok, Instagram, because I hit the 100 pip limit on a story highlight and I had to start a new one. So now it's like reading 2.0 and it's pissed me off. But yeah, our story graphs will both be linked below if you want to follow those. Oh, and also, more importantly, although not every book we mentioned here will be listed because that would be insane, but quite a few of them will, we will link our shared bookshop.org below. We've had a few questions about what it actually is because it always sounds confusing when you say bookshop.org. It is a website where you can have a homepage like we do that lists everything we talk about, but you can then buy the books through the website. But rather than like buying it from Amazon where it's coming from a centralized warehouse, what you're essentially doing is buying it from your local bookshop. So it supports local bookshops without you having to go to them if you would prefer to order online. It's a really, really fantastic, clever service that we both would highly recommend, and they have added ebooks this October, so that will also be linked below. Yay!
We hope you enjoyed this. We know it was a beast of an episode, but we hope you have both got inspiration of what to read and also what not to read.
Yeah. I am also, one of my reading goals next year is to have more 5s and more 1s. I'm sick of this 3 and 4 nonsense.
Yeah. Everything you review is like...
I know.
Yeah.
It's terrible. Thank you for listening and watching. Have a lovely Christmas and a happy new year. Goodbye.
Bye. Thank you for listening to this episode of Drunk Girls Who Read, a podcast by Goblet Wine Productions.
If you'd like to follow us around the internet, you can find our social media links in the description.
Or if you'd like to support us further, you can find us on Patreon, where you'll get access to bonus episodes and behind the scenes content.
Thank you so much for listening to this podcast, and we will see you in the next episode.
Bye!
Nice.